Chapter 966. After hearing Cheng Yaojin's words, Li Zixuan couldn't help but think that old Cheng was still very principled in dealing with matters. If it wasn't his, he would definitely not snatch it, even if it was something very attractive. Uncle Cheng, actually, Xiao Xian, you don't have to persuade me anymore. Since this thing is a benefit that you're giving to your family, then this old man has no reason to meddle in it. Let's wait until next year. When the time comes, I'll send some farmers to your farm to learn and gain experience. Don't refuse. Li Zixuan opened his mouth to say something, but was interrupted by Cheng Yaojin. Old Cheng's attitude was very firm. Li Zixuan thought about it and said with a smile, Thank you, Uncle Cheng, for your understanding of my family's farmers. But actually, if you want to let the farmers of the public house grow vegetables in greenhouses, you don't have to wait until next year. You just have to wait half a month. At that time, the maturation period of the vegetables in our greenhouses will be staggered. Even if there is a small overlap, it won't have a big impact on my family's farmers. Besides, the stock of cloth in Chang and is getting tighter and tighter. After half a month, there will be a lot more. So, Uncle Cheng, you can wait a little longer. Cheng Yaojin's eyes lit up, and he said, This really won't affect your farmers? Li Zixuan said, It won't affect them much. Even if the maturation period of the vegetables overlaps, we can still use the waterway to transport the vegetables to other provinces and counties to sell. Using the waterway to transport vegetables was actually an option. In this era, Chang and had developed water transportation and benefited from the Grand Canal built by Emperor Yang of the Sui Dynasty. From Chang, and one could go straight to the south through the Grand Canal. However, the preservation and consumption of vegetables during the transportation process was a big problem. Therefore, Li Zixuan didn't want to take this route unless it was absolutely necessary. After all, Chang had a population of millions. This huge city could completely consume the vegetables in the greenhouses on his land. Besides, even if there was a certain amount of vegetables in the greenhouses, Li Zixuan wouldn't interfere personally. Didn't he have the Chamber of Commerce? The members of the Chamber of Commerce must be very envious of the vegetables in the greenhouses. Cheng Yaojin laughed heartily and said, If it really doesn't affect your farmers, then in half a month's time, the farmers of the Cheng family will also start building greenhouses. By the way, how can second brother be left out of this kind of thing? This old man will tell him about this matter later. You won't mind, right? Li Zixuan shook his head and said, Of course I don't mind. Even if Uncle Cheng didn't say it, I would tell Uncle Qin about the vegetables in the greenhouses. Our three clans share weal and woe, and our fates are the same. Why should we draw such clear distinctions? In fact, if Cheng Yaojin didn't come today, Li Zixuan planned to go to the Qin family tomorrow and ask Qin Xiong if he wanted to import the vegetables in the greenhouses. Qin Xiong was his wife's adoptive father. Usually, he treated Li Zixuan as his own son. Whenever Li Zixuan was in trouble, Qin Xiong would be the first to stand up for him. Moreover, he would always agree to Li Zixuan's requests unconditionally. For example, during the military training at the academy, Qin Xiong didn't hesitate to accept Li Zixuan's invitation and come to the academy to be a military training instructor for a month. Therefore, whenever there was something good, Li Zixuan would definitely think of giving Qin Xiong a share. As for Cheng Yaojin, of course, he treated Li Zixuan very well. Old Cheng was loyal and valued friendship. Many times when Li Zixuan was attacked, his behavior would be more violent and direct. Li Zixuan respected this old man very much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have told Cheng Yaojin about the vegetables in the greenhouses today. Cheng Yaojin looked deeply at Li Zixuan and said seriously, Good. You are loyal and loyal. Choox didn't misjudge you, and I didn't misjudge you either. But Xiao Xian, don't worry. Second brother Qin and I will never tell outsiders about the vegetables in the greenhouses. I will also tell the farmers in the village to keep it a secret. This winter, the vegetables in Chang and city will depend on us three families. Now we don't have to ask Her Majesty for vegetables. The next day, cheer up. There will be a lot of people coming to buy cloth today. Be more diligent. Early in the morning, the owners of the Eastern and Western cloth shops lectured their workers at the same time. Their faces were full of confidence. Yes, yes, yes. Boss, don't worry. Boss, how can you be so sure that there will be a lot of people coming to buy cloth today? One of the workers couldn't help but ask. The boss smiled proudly. His face was full of a strategist's expression. He said, I received news that the cloth from Li Jiqing clothing shop and Chow family cloth shop were sold out yesterday. Since no one is disrupting today, the people can only come back to sell our cloth that has increased in price. Hey, I have already mobilized 5,000 bolts of white cloth from Fuzhou yesterday. They should be here soon. Ha ha ha. Shopkeeper, you're wise. The workers immediately flattered him. The boss smiled and said, listen carefully. Today, the coarse cloth in our shop will be sold for 3 copper coins a bolt. Fine silk will be sold for 5 copper coins a bolt. And silk will be sold for 10 copper coins a bolt. Don't sell it for less than 1 copper coin. 3 copper coins a bolt. Compared to the previous price of 3 copper coins for 2 bolts, the price of the coarse cloth had increased by a whole fold. Boss, what if the other shops sell it at a lower price than us? A worker asked worriedly. The boss narrowed his eyes and said firmly, Oomph. I said 3 copper coins a bolt, and it will be 3 copper coins a bolt. Without the Marquis of Yong, and in Chao Wendong causing trouble, the coarse cloth in Chong and City today will only be sold at this price. Do you all understand? Yes, we understand. Many times greed could blind people. When a person's heart was filled with greed, then danger was not far away from that person. Shopkeeper, shopkeeper. Not good, not good. Eastern City, Lu Ji Cloth Shop. The market had been open for an hour, but there was not a single transaction. There were people who came to look at the cloth and silk, but after hearing the high price, they all flinched. At first, the boss was not anxious at all. He felt that when the buyers realized that Li Jiqing clothing shop and Chow family cloth shop did not have cheap cloth, they would definitely come back to buy their expensive cloth at a higher price. But after an hour, there was still no one coming to buy the cloth. The boss in the shop could not sit still and hurriedly sent someone to inquire about the situation. After a quarter of an hour, the worker who went to inquire about the situation returned in a hurry, shouting as he ran. The boss was immediately alerted. He quickly stepped forward and asked anxiously, what happened? Huff, huff. Boss, not good. Chow family cloth shop shipped a large batch of coarse cloth from somewhere today. Now, their shop's entrance is filled with cloth. There are at least tens of thousands of bolts. The commoners have all gone there to buy cloth. Chapter 967. What? Tens of thousands? Why do they have so many pieces of cloth? The shopkeeper's expression changed when he heard that. He grabbed the worker's shoulder and asked anxiously. The other workers in the shop didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They prayed that the shopkeeper wouldn't vent his anger on them when he got angry. The worker who was grabbed by the shopkeeper felt a sharp pain in his shoulder, but he couldn't care less. He quickly said, Shopkeeper, I don't know. I heard that old Master Chow had people place coarse cloth outside the shop early this morning. It was piled up like a mountain. I don't know how many pieces of cloth there are, but it seems that there are at least tens of thousands of pieces. I'm afraid there are almost 100,000 pieces. This was Chow Wendong's strength. He directly piled up some of the pieces of cloth in his hands, giving a strong visual impact. He took out more than 20,000 pieces of cloth, but achieved the effect of 100,000 pieces of cloth. It made people unsure how many cards he had in his hands. There was a lot of psychological warfare in this. The reason why he did this was mainly because Chow Wendong knew that the 50,000 pieces of cloth in his hands couldn't satisfy the appetite of the people in Li Zishuan's farmstead. If he wanted to complete the task given by Li Zishuan, he had to use some tricks. The method he used was exactly what Li Zishuan wanted to see. Why was Li Zishuan so sure that Chow Wendong only needed 50,000 pieces of cloth to stabilize the price of cloth in Chang'an? This involved the concept of the banker controlling the market. Take stocks, for example. The banker usually collected chips in the low-priced areas to achieve the initial goal of controlling the market. Then, he took the opportunity to raise the share price. After that, he would make a profit and leave behind a pile of chicken feathers. If the banker wanted to control the market, he had to have at least 20% of the circulating shares in his hands. In other words, for a company with a market value of 10 billion, the banker only needed 2 billion chips to achieve the goal of controlling the market. This was also the quality that an outstanding trader must have. Now, the shortage of coarse cloth in Chang was about 100,000 pieces of cloth. Chao Wendong had 50,000 chips in his hands, which was about 50%. Under such circumstances, if he still couldn't control the price of cloth in Chang, and Li Zishuan felt that he might as well kill himself with a piece of tofu. Almost 100,000 pieces. After the shopkeeper heard this, he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of concept was 100,000 horses? Chang and City's monthly consumption of cloth was estimated to be around 100,000 bolts, right? How the F***CK are we supposed to play? You can't bully me like this. At this moment, the shopkeeper felt like crying. Shopkeeper, the 5,000 bolts of coarse cloth you transferred from Fuzhou yesterday have arrived. They're in the backyard. Would you like to take a look? At this moment, a servant in green ran into the shop and cupped his hands. The shopkeeper's face was so gloomy that water was about to drip out. He panted heavily and roared, "Get lost!" The servant in green was so scared that he trembled and fled. Who knew that after a short while, he returned. Shopkeeper, no good. There's a team of officers from the Supreme Court at the Wang family's cloth store across the street. Shopkeeper Wang has already been arrested. What? The shopkeeper of Lu Ji cloth shop's old face turned pale. In the end, he couldn't resist the great fear in his heart. His eyes rolled back and he fainted. Quick, I'll reduce the price of the cloth. Before he fainted, he said weakly. The Supreme Court's minister, Lu Dui, personally led the troops to the eastern and western cities. This was the last straw that crushed all the cloth merchants in Chang and City. In order to avoid trouble, the cloth merchants scrambled to reduce their prices. They were afraid that if they were too slow, they would be imprisoned. In fact, when the Chow family's cloth store released tens of thousands of bolts of coarse cloth, many cloth merchants saw the opportunity to reduce their prices. As for the other cloth merchants who wanted to resist to the end, the sudden appearance of the officers from the Supreme Court extinguished their last hope. Thus, just as the price of cloth in Chang and City showed signs of increasing, it was quickly pinched down. Your Majesty, after a secret investigation, I've arrested a total of 15 cloth merchants who collectively raised the price of cloth in an attempt to make huge profits. These people saw that there were many merchants in Chang and City who wanted to buy large amounts of cloth in the past 2 days, so they saw the opportunity to raise the price. Moreover, these merchants have cooperated with each other in an attempt to raise the price of cloth. Just today, the price of coarse cloth has been raised by these people to twice the previous price. In the afternoon, Ganlu Hall, the Supreme Court's minister, Lu Dui, walked into the hall and reported to Lier. Lu Dui fought under Pei Renji at the end of the Sui Dynasty. Later, he joined Li Mi and returned to Tang with Li Mi. He was conferred the title of Left Marquis General and was conferred the title of County Duke Tang. In the first year of Jingguan, he was conferred the title of Supreme Court's Minister. Bam! When Lier heard this, he slapped the dragon table with a gloomy face and said angrily, "Twice the price. This group of people was really daring. Cloth is a daily necessity of the people. How can they be allowed to commit such atrocities? Punish them severely." Lu Dui bowed and said, "Your Majesty, these criminals have been detained by the Supreme Court. In 2 days, Your Majesty will interrogate and punish them." Lier said again, "Investigate. Continue investigating. If similar situations are found again, detain them directly. The prices of Chang and City must not be messed up." "Your Majesty." Lu Dui bowed and accepted the order. "Old Master, the price has fallen. The price has fallen. The price of coarse cloth from all the other cloth shops in Chang and City has fallen." In Shi City, the Chow family's cloth shop, a manservant who looked like a servant ran into the backyard and reported loudly. Chao Wendong narrowed his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. "Is that so? Now it's good to report to Marquis." "Huh." At the same time, In the Li residence in Yongle City, Li Zishuan also received the news not long after. Little Xian, did you expect that His Majesty would send people from the Supreme Court to intervene in this matter? Yi Guozhong asked Li Zishuan after hearing the news. Yesterday, when he saw Li Zishuan's scheming look, he knew that Li Zishuan had a trick up his sleeve and could settle this matter. However, he didn't expect that Li Zishuan could settle the price of cloth in Chang, and so quickly. It was practically a miracle. Li Zishuan shook his head and said, "Grandfather, even if His Majesty didn't send people from the Supreme Court to intervene in this matter, those clowns who only know how to hoard and inflate the price of cloth won't be able to do anything. At worst, they'll just waste a few more days. Good and evil will be repaid. Justice will only be late, but it will never be absent." Yi Guozhong's expression suddenly became complicated. He murmured, "Good and evil will be repaid. Justice will only be late, but it will never be absent. Good, good. Your master's spirit in heaven must be gratified to have a disciple like you." Chapter 968. Under Li Zishuan's and Chao Wendong's ingenious plan and Lier's suppression, the price of cloth in Chang and city quickly returned to the previous price. Some shops' prices were even lower than before. As for the shopkeepers of these shops, it was unknown whether they had a guilty conscience or had found their conscience. After the incident, the Supreme Court arrested more than 20 cloth merchants who had jointly manipulated the price of cloth. These people were not wronged at all, because just the night before, they had made an appointment with each other and finalized the price of cloth for the next day at the same time, using this opportunity to make huge profits. Hoarding and price gouging were things that no one would care about in modern times. However, in ancient times, especially in times of peace and prosperity, the imperial court strictly controlled such things. Marquis, young master Yin sent someone to report that the cement road from Yunshan to the official road has been completed. He dismissed the construction team yesterday. A few days later, Pang Feiji came to Li Zishuan's residence in Chang, and in the morning and told him this news. Half of the construction team from the college had been dismissed, and the other half was busy repairing the cement road. Yin Xiaoning was still the leader of the construction team. However, as the leader, besides supervising the construction, he was often caught by Mo Lingwei to be a strong man. Li Zishuan, who was inspecting the greenhouse in the courtyard, was stunned when he heard this. Then, he was overjoyed and said, "Oh, it's been completed so quickly? Ask Sambao to prepare a horse. I want to see it." The cement road in Yinshan was a road that Li Zishuan had spent a lot of money to build for the Han family village and Mei village. A total of more than 100,000 strings of coins were spent, and the construction team had reached more than 6,000 people. The total length of the road was more than 30 miles. It took nearly 2 months and a huge amount of manpower, material, and financial resources to finally be completed. Perhaps many people would feel that it was not worth it, but Li Zishuan did not think so. In his vision, Yanwang College would definitely become the top engineering school in the Tang Empire in the future, and it would also have a strong research ability. At the same time, the new workshop of the Wonderful Taste Pavilion, which was backed by the Plum Village, would become the representative of the Great Tang's advanced productive forces. The two of them combined to form a complete closed-loop system of production, learning, and research. Cloud Mountain would gradually develop into the industrial center of the Great Tang. As the industrial center of Great Tang, how could it not have a flat and wide cement road to increase the efficiency of transportation? Riding on Big White, Li Zishuan led Pang Feiji on a mad dash. In the time it took for half an incense to burn, they had already arrived at the intersection of the cement road in Yun Mountain and the official road outside Chang'an City. Looking at the wide and flat cement road in front of him, Li Zishuan was in a trance. For a moment, he felt as if he had traveled back in time to the modern society full of reinforced concrete. Although the more developed the industry, the more serious the pollution would be, the industry could create a large number of high-tech products with added value. Even though Li Zishuan was doing very well in the Great Tang, had power, influence, and a beautiful wife, there were still times when he missed modern society. He missed his former family, and he missed modern mobile phones, computers, and other electronic devices. Without experiencing the days without mobile phones and computers, one would never understand how important these things were. This was also the reason why Li Zishuan had been working so hard ever since he had traveled back in time. If he did not work hard, he would be bored to death. Marquis. Seeing Li Zishuan in a daze while staring at the cement road, Pang Feiji was confused. He waited for a long while, and seeing that Li Zishuan still did not move, he called out. Li Zishuan, whose thoughts were in a mess, heard the call and came back to his senses. He stroked the mane on Big White's neck and said to Pang Feiji, "Let's go. Let's experience this cement road and see how long it will take to reach Cloud Mountain." Hiya! This was the first cement road in Great Tang, but it would definitely not be the last. Li Zishuan thought to himself. "Yes, Marquis. Hiya!" Pang Feiji responded and hurriedly urged his horse to chase after Li Zishuan's back. The two of them, one in front and one behind, planned to race on this road. Oh no, it should be a horse race. Da-da-da. On the quiet cement road in the mountains, only the da-da sound of horse hooves could be heard, and the sound was very hurried. The horses galloped on the wide and flat cement road to their heart's content. Due to the high speed, their hair and clothes were pulled straight by the wind. The carefree feeling brought about by galloping at such high speed made them feel heroic. However, their wish to ride the horses back to Cloud Mountain did not come true, because there were many naughty children playing with scooters on the road. Hee, come and chase after me. Whoever is in last place will be everyone's horse in a while. Wah, Lil Rome, why did you bump into me? Lil Rome, you cheated. Show. After turning 2 hills, Li Zishuan saw more than 10 naughty children suddenly appear a few hundred feet ahead. They were chasing each other on scooters on the road. He hurriedly pulled the reins and ordered Big White to slow down. Pang Feiji, who was behind, saw this and hurriedly followed suit. Fortunately, they reacted quickly. When they were still a few feet away from the last naughty child, the two of them finally slowed down. Due to the large number of naughty children, in order to avoid bumping into people, Dubai exhaled 2 breaths of white air. Under Li Zishuan's control, his 4 hooves began to stroll leisurely on the road. Feiji, why are there so many naughty children here? Li Zishuan frowned and asked. He almost blurted out the words, naughty children. Marquis, this subordinate heard 2 days ago that the children in Chang and city saw that the road here was very flat and started to play with scooters on the cement road. I just didn't expect there to be so many people. Pang Feiji scratched his head and said awkwardly. In fact, there were already naughty children who started to play with scooters on the cement road more than 10 days ago. However, at that time, they were all naughty children from Plum Village and the Han Village. After all, the pavilion closest to the water enjoyed the moonlight first. There was no need to doubt whether the villagers had the money to buy scooters for their children. The villagers from Plum Village and the Han Village were very rich now. It was not impossible for them to grit their teeth and buy scooters for their children. Later, the naughty children from Chang and city also joined in. They realized that the road here was smoother than the Bluestone Road in the city and more suitable for scooters. Word of mouth spread, and more naughty children came to Yun Mountain to play with scooters. Because of this, the sales of scooters in Strange Taste Pavilion even reached a small peak. Just like that, the first cement road in Tang Dynasty had now become the holy land for scooters in the eyes of the naughty children. Every one of them was having fun here. Li Zishuan was speechless when he heard this. No matter what, he would never have thought that the road that he'd spent a lot of money on had become a playground for naughty children. The world was really unpredictable. When it came to ancient streets, many people might subconsciously think that ancient streets were all dirt roads and were full of potholes. In fact, that was not the case. In fact, the streets in Chang and city were not dirt roads with potholes. Instead, they were paved with bluestone slabs. Millions of people in the city walked on the streets all day long, and the bluestone slabs had been polished until they were quite smooth. In terms of smoothness, the cement road could not compare. It was because of this that Li Zishuan had bought scooters back then. If the roads were full of potholes, why would he buy a scooter? However, although the bluestone slabs were smooth, the joints between the bluestone slabs were not seamless. On this kind of road, the scooter would be bumpy and it could easily cause a car accident. In comparison, the flat and wide cement road was like a God-given road for these naughty children who liked to play. There was nothing more suitable than a cement road. Let's go. Don't bump into these kids. Li Zishuan had wanted a race on the road, but he did not expect a group of naughty children to race on it. He could only sigh helplessly and gloomily. Yes, Marquis, Pang Feiji said embarrassedly. The two of them slowed down and continued to walk towards the cloud mountain. On the road ahead, they saw many naughty children again. The mountain road that used to be quiet and cold was now filled with the laughter of naughty children, and it was very lively. Seeing this scene, Li Zishuan felt an inexplicable joy in his heart. Perhaps happiness was really contagious. Marquis, look at these kids. Their faces are all red from the cold, but they are still running around. It's as if it's the new year. After passing by the group of naughty children, Pang Feiji said happily. Li Zishuan heard this and did not even turn his head. He said, "Aren't all kids like this? When you were at this age, if you could also come across something as fun as a scooter, you would definitely be similar to them." Pang Feiji was stunned. He then said, Marquis is right. Kids nowadays are really living a good life. When I was young, where'd I get these things? It's good enough that I can eat my fill." Li Zishuan laughed. "We can't be worse than the previous generation, right? The current emperor is working hard to govern the country, and the civil and military officials are working hard. The Tang Empire will only get better and better." When he said the last sentence, his tone suddenly became incomparably firm. Pang Feiji nodded vigorously. "Marquis is right. Old Pang, had a hard life back then, but the next generation must not continue to have such a hard life. The soldiers of the Tang Empire fought with their blood to give their descendants a prosperous world. If anyone dares to destroy the peace now, Old Pang, will be the first to rush over and chop off his dog head." "Ha! Well said. If anyone dares to make things difficult for us, we will make them suffer." Li Zishuan laughed. When Li Zishuan and the others appointed him as the Marquis of Yong, and Li Zishuan understood the responsibility on his shoulders. Yong, and he wanted to ensure the Tang Empire's eternal peace. Shouting, "Ha, not bad, not bad. You can multitask now, and you can even bring forward the cement roads construction by a few days. Impressive." When he arrived at Yanwang College, Li Zishuan saw Yin Xiaoning, who was beaming with happiness. That's right, he was beaming with happiness. Compared to the last time, Yin Xiaoning's face was ruddy and full of smiles. Even an idiot could tell that this guy was very happy. Could it be that something shameful happened between this guy and Mo Lingwei during this period of time? Li Zishuan thought to himself. He couldn't be blamed for having unhealthy thoughts. It was just that Yin Xiaoning's expression today was too. Love was written all over his face. Furthermore, he had talked to Mo Lingwei last time and imparted to her a love theory of if you love him, you must train him well. Under such circumstances, it was hard for Li Zishuan not to think about it. What multitask? Xiaoxian, you're too mean. I've been supervising people to help you build the road these days. Yin Xiaoning immediately retorted like a cat whose tail was stepped on after hearing Li Zishuan's words. Li Zishuan said, I'm praising you. Why are you in such a hurry to explain?" Yin Xiaoning didn't fall for it. He rolled his eyes and said, "Xiaoxian, don't try to trick me. How can I not know that? Also, you didn't come here today just to be sarcastic, did you?" Li Zishuan restrained his smile and said in all seriousness, "I came here today especially to thank you, Xiaoning. You've contributed a lot to Yanwang College and the cement road from Yinshan to Chang'an. How about it? Are you interested in working at the college?" In the end, Li Zishuan changed the topic and revealed his true thoughts. If it was half a month ago, Yin Xiaoning, who had been ravaged by Mo Lingwei, would definitely refuse without hesitation. But now Xiaoxian, It's not about whether I'm willing or not. It's just that I don't know much about your engineering and Confucianism. How can I work at Yinhuan College? Yin Xiaoning rolled his eyes and coughed dryly. The expected rejection didn't happen. Instead, he got this sentence. Li Zixuan was stunned at first, then he understood. It seemed that Yin Xiaoning, a straight man, was finally subdued by Mo Lingwei and fell under Mo Lingwei's pomegranate skirt. Huh, Xiaoning, what you said isn't a problem. Although you don't know much about engineering and Confucianism, you have a lot of engineering experience. Engineering is the study of engineering, and there are many similarities. Xiaoning, you could be the teacher in charge of student experiments in the college. You could participate in the college's daily teaching after you're fully familiar with engineering. Li Zixuan took advantage of the situation and followed Yin Xiaoning's words. Yin Xiaoning hesitated for a while and nodded. Cough. I think that's fine. Then I'll stay at the college from now on. Li Zixuan glanced at Yin Xiaoning and pretended to ask casually. Oh right, where's your family's ink girl? Where is she? Damn. Xiao Xian, don't talk nonsense. When did she become part of our family? Yin Xiaoning was about to answer subconsciously, but he suddenly realized something and scolded Li Zixuan angrily. However, only he himself knew how much of his anger was genuine and how much of it was fake. Huh, it was a slip of the tongue. Don't mind it, Xiaoning. Li Zixuan blinked his eyes and cast a look that everyone understood as he said wretchedly. Chapter 969. Li Zixuan was quite happy that his good friend was finally about to leave his singlehood. However, he did not know how far the two of them had progressed. What if they got pregnant before marriage and got married? That would be awkward. If that really happened, old man Mo would probably raise his sword and chop this brat up, right? Although the Tang Dynasty was liberal, it definitely wouldn't be to the point where chastity wasn't important. Wei Er went to the workshop. Yin Xiaoning replied gloomily. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and said, Oh, right? Xiao Xian, Faubert told me yesterday that the thing you asked him to make last time has been completed. Wei Er should be going to the workshop today to see that thing. Do you want to take a look too? Li Zixuan was stunned. He thought for a while before he remembered that when the workshop received a large batch of rubber, he gave Faubert 2 blueprints. One was a football, and the other was something even more awesome than a scooter. Really? Huh. Xiaoning, you shouldn't be busy now, right? Let's go take a look. Li Zixuan was excited as he looked at Yin Xiaoning. Yin Xiaoning actually wanted to go a long time ago. However, he knew that Li Zixuan would come to the academy to look for him today, so he was too embarrassed to go with Mo Lingwei. Hearing this, he immediately said, Okay, I'll go with you to take a look. I also want to know what you asked Faubert to make. Li Zixuan smiled and didn't expose the little scheme in his heart. The two of them didn't ride horses and went down the mountain directly to the new workshop near the river. Hey, Xiao Xian, why are the farmers in Plum Village and the Han family village so secretive recently? Previously, when Wei Er and I went to the village to play, we felt like there were people watching us everywhere we went. Also, there were some places that we weren't allowed to go. Don't you think it's weird? Yin Xiaoning suddenly sighed when they passed by Plum Village. When Li Zixuan heard this, his heart skipped a beat. If he guessed correctly, the farmers were probably trying to prevent outsiders from stealing the secret of the greenhouse vegetables. He didn't organize this kind of thing. It should be the villagers who did it spontaneously. It seemed like these villagers had a strong sense of secrecy. I think you've been too tired recently and are hallucinating, right? The villagers all know the two of you, so why would they keep an eye on you? You're being paranoid. Li Zixuan rubbed his nose and pretended that he didn't know anything. However, he deliberately emphasized the word tired to make it seem like there was a deeper meaning behind it. Too tired? No. Yin Xiaoning scratched his head in confusion. When he saw Li Zixuan looking at him with a smirk, he immediately realized what was going on and shouted angrily, Fuck! Little Xian, you're becoming more and more naughty. You even dare to make such a joke. If we're talking about fatigue, shouldn't you be the one who's tired? Look at the dark circles under your eyes. You're the one who's tired. Li Zixuan glanced at him and said, I'm tired? I'm legitimately tired. I say, when you're with Ink Girl, you have to pay attention to safety measures. Don't give birth to a little Ning. Yin Xiaoning opened his mouth, and his eyes were filled with fire. He wanted to punch Li Zishuan's shoulder. Fuck. There's nothing between me and Wei Er. Don't you dare taint our innocence. With a flash, Li Zishuan easily dodged Yin Xiaoning's punch and then said, "Ha ha, just kidding. Brother, I'm just reminding you out of kindness." He was really reminding him out of kindness. When young boys and girls in puberty were together for a long time, it was hard to guarantee that nothing wonderful would happen. The two of them chatted and laughed along the way. Soon, they arrived at the workshop of the strange interest pavilion. This new workshop was built with high standards. It integrated production, office, and research. In the future, as the scale of the workshop grew larger and larger, there would be more and more products. Li Zishuan planned to set up the headquarters of the Yin Huang Chamber of Commerce here as well. It would be more convenient for the distribution of resources and the exchange of information. Just as they reached the entrance of the workshop, Li Zishuan and Yin Xiaoning heard a scream filled with terror. Then, they saw a young girl standing on a two-wheeled metal frame and rushing towards them unsteadily. Behind her was a panting Faubert. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. I can't control this car." That young girl was Mo Lingwei. When she saw Li Zishuan and Yin Xiaoning suddenly appear at the entrance of the courtyard, she hurriedly screamed. Yin Xiaoning was instantly dumbfounded. Firstly, he was dumbfounded by the two-wheeled car that Mo Lingwei was sitting on. Secondly, he was dumbfounded by the fact that Mo Lingwei was mysteriously in a dangerous situation. He stood there in a daze and even forgot to move his feet. In the blink of an eye, seeing that Mo Lingwei and the car were about to crash into Yin Xiaoning, Li Zishuan gently pushed Yin Xiaoning 2 steps to the right with his right hand. Then, he used his left hand to precisely press on the center of the handlebar. The car that was about to crash into them could no longer move forward. The car stabilized, but the person on the car lost her balance at this time. Save, 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 help! Mo Lingwei screamed and was about to fall to the ground in front of her right. Men and women should not touch each other. Besides, this was his brother's wife. Li Zishuan would rather watch Mo Lingwei fall to the ground than help her up. However, in this situation, there was a way to get the best of both worlds. His right leg hooked onto Yin Xiaoning's leg joint at lightning speed. Before Yin Xiaoning could react, he had already fallen to the ground before Mo Lingwei. The position where he fell was coincidentally where Mo Lingwei was about to fall. Bam! The collision between flesh and flesh produced a muffled sound, followed by a muffled groan and a scream. The muffled groan was naturally made by Yin Xiaoning, while the scream was made by Mo Lingwei. This girl thought that she would be disfigured if she fell face first, so she kept screaming. Little did she know that she had already landed safely. Ugh. Cough, cough, cough. Wei Er, I'm the one who's injured. What are you screaming for? Hurry and get up. Yin Xiaoning was lying on the ground. At this time, he couldn't care less about having a soft and warm body in his arms. It should be on his back. He only felt that his old waist was about to be broken by Mo Lingwei. When he heard Mo Lingwei scream, he grinned and said unhappily, Little Ningzi, why are you below me? Are you trying to save me? Wow, so touching. I'll definitely reward you well later. Mo Lingwei only reacted when she heard Yin Xiaoning's muffled groan. She pressed her hands on Yin Xiaoning's old waist, propped herself up, and said, Ouch, 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 ouch. Chapter 970. Yin Xiaoning's waist was already severely injured, and with Mo Lingwei's push, it could be said to be one disaster after another. He felt like his waist was about to fall apart. Actually, he wanted to say that he didn't mean to save her, but Mo Lingwei's second half of the sentence made him shut his mouth and dispel the thought of telling the truth. Little Ning, how are you? Are you okay? I didn't mean to push you there. Mo Lingwei hurriedly stood up, tidied her clothes, and said apologetically, Cough, cough. Yin Xiaoning struggled to get up from the ground. He first looked back at Li Zixuan bitterly, then forced a smile at Mo Lingwei. It's nothing. Wei what's this? At this moment, he noticed the two-wheeled bicycle that Li Zixuan stopped, and couldn't help but feel strange. Mo Lingwei heard Yin shouting mention the bicycle that she was playing with, and immediately became excited. Little Ning, this is the two-wheeled bicycle that Faubert just made. He said that this thing can be pedaled. I've been practicing this before, but I didn't expect the two-wheeled bicycle to suddenly lose control and almost hit you guys. Luckily, Yamacho helped me stop it. After saying that, she patted her chest with a face full of fear. Yin Xiaoning's face turned red, and he hurriedly turned his head. Hee, this is called a bicycle. Li Zixuan laughed. That's right, the second blueprint that he gave to Faubert was a bicycle. At that time, Faubert looked at the blueprint and thought that the structure of this thing was quite simple, so he thought that he would be able to give it to Li Zixuan in 10 days. Who knew that when he actually built it, he realized that this bicycle wasn't as simple as he thought. A bicycle can be simplified into a body, handlebars, pedals, chains, seats, wheels, and brakes. These basic parts were first invented in 1885 by the Englishman John Staley. Under his improvements, the bicycle had the basic form of a modern bicycle, a triangular frame, pedals in the middle, chain-driven, and brakes. But 1885, according to the classification of middle school textbooks, was already modern. At that time, the United Kingdom had already established a relatively complete industrial system, and the smelting technology of steel was also mature. It was not difficult to make bicycles. But this was the Tang Dynasty. The Tang Dynasty had an underdeveloped industrial system. It would be quite difficult to make one or two bicycles. First, it was the frame. Modern bicycle frames were usually made of steel or aluminum alloy. Carbon fiber. Cough, cough, cough. It would be a bit of a bully to ask the ancients for this. However, if there were not too many requirements for the strength of the frame, bamboo, or wood would be fine. It was just that they had to pay attention to fire and prevent insects from eating them. The front fork was relatively strong, so it could be made of cast iron or relatively hardwood. The bicycle in Li Zixuan's hand was made of iron. Next, it was the wheels. If Li Zixuan had not transmigrated, it would be impossible for him to make rubber tires in the Tang Dynasty. This was because China had only planted rubber trees for about 100 years. Before the reform, there were not enough rubber trees to make condoms. Rich people had to wash their condoms before using them. That was why the wheels could only be made of wood. But it was different now. Under Li Zixuan's push, rubber was introduced to China more than 1,000 years earlier. At this time, it was not a problem for factories to make rubber tires. Not only did Uncle Fu make the rubber tires, but he also made the pump according to Li Zixuan's drawings. It could be said that he had a complete set of tools. The first two parts were not difficult to make, but the next part was the transmission of the bicycle, the chain. The chain was made up of an outer plate, an inner plate, a shaft, and a roller. From the perspective of modern people, it was not difficult at all. It was also very simple to make. Stainless steel or carbon steel. A machine would punch out a pile of steel plates and fasten them together. But in the Tang Dynasty, steel could only be forged and processed. To hammer out hundreds of identical, small steel plates would force the blacksmith's entire family to hang themselves. It was possible to use cast iron because the molten iron was poured into the mold. The shape and size would be similar, but the strength of cast iron. Let's put it this way. If an iron pot in your house broke into 8 pieces, it would be cast iron. As the transmission of the bicycle, the chain had to withstand a considerable amount of tension. The strength of cast iron was obviously not enough. Also, cast iron chains had another disadvantage. Once it touched water, it would rust to death. That was why Faubert had been worried about this for a long time. Later, he could not think of a better alternative, so he went to find Li Zixuan and explained the situation. Li Zixuan then realized that a simple chain in modern society would be so troublesome to make in ancient times. In fact, this problem was not unsolvable. A hydraulic stamping machine would be enough. However, the hydraulic punch machine required strong water power. The flow of the Bar River was relatively gentle. If he wanted to get strong water power, he needed a large water level difference. Then, he needed to build a dam to store water. The project was too big. He could do it in the future, but now it was winter. In winter, the river might freeze. Even if he did it, it would be useless. At the beginning of October, he had planned to build a generator, but after the cholera and the telescope incident, he felt that it was too late. The river was about to freeze, so the generator blueprints he had drawn could only be locked in the cabinet for the time being. As for the chain, Li Zixuan decided to give up on using the chain because the conditions were not ripe yet. He chose to install the pedals on the front wheel and change it to a front-wheel drive. This form was already made by the Scots in 1839. Although it was more strenuous and easy to fall into a trap, at least it could be used on the road. As for the chain-driven bicycle, because it needed the hydraulic stamping machine, it would have to wait until next year. Coincidentally, he planned to update the workshop with a new batch of professional equipment. After Fauber got the plan, he immediately came back to lead the craftsmen to modify the bicycle. After more than half a month, this kind of front-wheel drive bicycle was finally made. Bicycle. Mo Lingwei heard Li Zixuan's words, and her eyes lit up. She said, "This name is very appropriate. Bicycle, a bicycle that can walk on its own. Hee hee. But Yamacho, your bicycle only has 2 wheels. It's not easy to ride at all. It's hard to stand still. I've fallen a few times." Yin shouting chimed in. "Yeah, Xiaoxian, can't you make 3 wheels? It's too easy to fall with 2 wheels." Li Zixuan laughed. "Who said that it's not easy to stand still with 2 wheels? That's because you haven't mastered the balancing skills of this type of bicycle. I'll show you 2 later." Chapter 971. Young Master, this bike is built, but no one in the workshop can control it. You have to be careful when you ride it. Seeing that Li Zixuan was about to get on the bike, Faubert quickly came over and warned him. Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Faubert, don't worry. With my skills, even if I ride with one hand, I won't fall." After saying that, he looked at Mo Lingwei and joked, "Ink Girl, I think your skills are pretty good. Why didn't you just jump off the bike?" As the daughter of a martial arts master, Mo Lingwei knew martial arts, and her skills were pretty good. At least, it was more than enough to beat Yin shouting up. A martial arts master would actually flip over when riding a bike. If this was spread out, people would probably laugh their heads off. Mo Lingwei came back to her senses. Her face turned red, and she stuck out her tongue embarrassedly and said, I just forgot." "Forgot?" Li Zixuan was stunned. He really didn't know what to say. Shaking his head, he walked to the side of the bike and said, "Look carefully, the bike shouldn't be ridden like that. Also, not only can you stand on the 2 wheels, you can stand very steadily." The 3 of them immediately focused their attention on Li Zixuan. Cough, cough. Because this bike was a front-wheel drive type, Li Zixuan could only step on one leg and sit on the bike seat while the bike was still. After feeling the flexibility of the steering, Li Zixuan stepped on the front foot of the bike. At first, the bike swayed a little, but then a familiar feeling returned to his body. The bike instantly regained its balance and began to move forward steadily. Wow, Yamacho is amazing. He can ride so steadily. Mo Lingwei saw that the bike that was swaying under her hands was like a well-behaved horse under Li Zixuan's control. Her eyes widened, and she suddenly screamed in excitement. "TSK, if it were me, I would definitely be able to ride so steadily too." Seeing Mo Lingwei's excited look, Yin Xiaoning felt a little jealous and immediately began to brag. "Hee hee, little Ning, you really know how to brag. If you get on the bike, you'll definitely fall to the ground." Mo Lingwei stuck out her tongue and mercilessly attacked him. "You!" Yin Xiaoning's face turned red, and he pointed at Mo Lingwei. He wanted to say that she was insulting him, but after thinking about it, he decided to let it go. On the other side, Li was riding on the bike to ride. To be honest, it had been more than 2 years since he last rode a bicycle. Before he transmigrated to Tang Dynasty, bicycles were extremely popular in China. However, as an otaku, he rarely went out. Even if he did go out, he wouldn't choose to ride a bicycle. It had been more than 2 years since he last rode a bicycle. Now that he had transmigrated to the Tang Dynasty, he could actually ride a bicycle. What a novel experience this was. Perhaps only Li Zishuan himself knew. Faubert, I'll ride this bike home first. The workshop needs to hurry up and produce a batch of bicycles. Li Zishuan rode his bicycle and circled the workshop's courtyard a few times. He was in a good mood as he laughed heartily and called out to Uncle Fu. Faubert nodded. Okay. I'll arrange it in the next few days. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect a two-wheeled bike to be so stable. Hee. Li Zishuan smiled and said to Yin Xiaoning, I'll have to trouble you to send Big White back to Chang'an later. I'll take my leave first. Yin Xiaoning's face was filled with resentment. They walked together when they came. Why did he have to walk when he was riding a bike back? Although it seemed unfair, he had no choice. There was only one bike here. Even if there was another one, he wouldn't know how to ride it. Therefore, he could only nod his head sullenly. Mo Lingwei was unhappy. Hey, Yamacho, don't ride it away. I haven't had enough fun yet. However, Li Zishuan ignored the crazy girl. He rode his bicycle like a gust of wind and floated past a few of them. When he rode in front of Mo Lingwei, he purposely showed off his skills. He crossed his arms in front of his chest so that the bike could run faster without anyone controlling it. Mo Lingwei was envious of Li Zishuan's cool and easy operation. She chased after Li Zishuan and said, Wow, Yamacho, come down and let me play with you for a while. But just as she finished speaking, Li Zishuan had already dashed off into the distance. She could use her Qinggong to catch up, but she felt that this was a little too absurd, so she could only gloomily stomp her feet on the spot. Faubert, you have to make another bike as soon as possible. In the end, the girl could only pin her hopes on Faubert. Okay. I'll do it as soon as possible. Faubert was unusually happy. Of course, Faubert was happy to see that the bike that he worked so hard on for more than a month was so popular. Moreover, the person who spoke was Mo Lingwei, Yin Xiaoning's fiancée. He had even more reason to be happy. Even though he no longer worked for the Yin family, he still had feelings for Yin Xiaoning after all these years. Seeing that Yin Xiaoning was finally enlightened and had the possibility of starting a family, he was happy from the bottom of his heart. Oh wow, look, that big brother is riding a monster. On the road, a group of kids who were playing with scooters shouted in surprise when they saw Li Zishuan riding a bike towards them. Wow, the monster that big brother is riding is so fast. When the kids saw Li Zishuan and the bike, they were all excited. However, they were not stupid. They knew to stand on both sides and make way for Li Zishuan. When Li Zishuan passed through them like the wind, the kids immediately turned their scooters around and chased after Li Zishuan while shouting, Big brother, wait for us. Big brother, where did you buy the monster? Big brother, make your monster run slower. Tang Dynasty's first bicycle was called a monster by the kids. However, the kids were not afraid of the monster. They all wanted to know where Li Zishuan bought the monster. Li Zishuan shook his head helplessly when he heard the brats chirping. Although this kind of front-wheel drive bicycle was a bit ugly, it couldn't be a monster, right? Li Zishuan had no choice but to increase his speed in order to prevent the brats from encountering any danger during the chase. The ugly bicycle immediately ran at the speed of a fast horse, and in the blink of an eye, it had pulled a large distance away from the brats. The brats could only look at Li Zishuan's back and howl in grief. Chapter 972. Li Zishuan finally arrived at Chang'an City on his monster after shaking off a few groups of naughty kids who were racing on the road. Looking at the oddly shaped bicycle, the pedestrians all looked at it in amazement. The first bicycle in Tang Dynasty had a 100% chance of turning their heads. Marquis, what is this? Du Gufeng was on duty at the city gate today. When he saw Li Zishuan pushing such a monster into the city, he asked in confusion. The ancient city gate officers were like the security guards at modern train stations and subway stations. They had the responsibility to check if the people entering the city were carrying any prohibited items, such as heavy crossbows. Fei Ying, this is a new bicycle made by my workshop. What do you think? Isn't it cool? Li Zixuan laughed proudly. Dugu Feiying, who had been with Li Zixuan for a long time, knew what cool meant. However, when he saw the oddly shaped bicycle, he frowned and said, "Cool? Let's just say it's cool. But how can a two-wheeled car stand stably?" As they spoke, Li Zixuan pushed the bicycle to the inner corridor of the city gate. Although Dugu Feiying couldn't figure out what kind of bicycle Li Zixuan was pushing, he wouldn't go over to check. After all, they were acquaintances. "Ha! Then Feiying, watch carefully." Li Zixuan laughed and got on the bicycle. When the wheels started to turn, the bicycle started to move forward steadily. Dugu Feiying's eyes widened, and he couldn't help but click his tongue in amazement. The pedestrians near the city gate also let out cries of surprise. What is this bicycle? Why does it look so strange? This two-wheeled bicycle can stand steadily? This is too amazing. It's very fast. The main thing is that it's convenient and doesn't take up much space. I just don't know where to buy this kind of bicycle. Hey, isn't that the Marquis of Yong'an? It must be something new from Chitiu Pavilion. Wow, it really is the Marquis of Yong'an. No, I have to go to Chitiu Pavilion to see if they sell it. Forget it. Save your breath. They definitely haven't started selling it yet. Why? Brother Zhao, have you asked? Not really, but if Chitiu Pavilion started selling this new toy, they would definitely announce it in Tang Daily. However, there hasn't been any news about this in the past 2 days. Brilliant. Brother Zhao is brilliant. After attracting a lot of attention, Li Zixuan finally returned home. When Lan'er saw Li Zixuan push the bicycle in, she was stunned for a moment. Then, she ran over happily and shouted, "Brother! Brother! What is this thing? It's so fun." The Chitiu bicycle. She stood. Lise was looking. She, of course, the bicycle's the bicycle's bicycle, as a child of the bicycle, of. She of the lookings is the S bicycles is S bicycle. Did you ride this back? Li Zixuan patted Lan'er's head. After hearing his wife's guess, he laughed and said, "My wife is really smart. I rode this bicycle back." Lana looked up and said, "Brother, what's this bicycle? Lana wants to ride it too." Li Zixuan patted his sister's head and said, "No, you can only ride it when you're this tall. Otherwise, you'll fall easily. When that happens, Lan'er, you'll become ugly." As he spoke, he gestured with his hand to his chest. Lan'er's little face instantly turned bitter. Lan'er doesn't want to become ugly. But when can Lan'er grow so tall? Han Yushi bent down and said to Lan'er, "Lan'er, you're not tall enough to ride a bicycle, but you can take a car." Lan'er was overjoyed when she heard that. Okay. Brother, Lan'er wants to take a car. Quickly take me." Li Zixuan had always agreed to his little sister's requests. He smiled and said, "Okay." Then he said to Han Yushi, "Wife, help me hold the bicycle first." Han Yushi agreed with a smile. Li Zixuan carried Lan'er to the back seat of the bicycle. Yes, this bicycle had a back seat and could carry people. Then he took control of the bicycle from Han Yushi's hands. After getting on the bicycle, he shouted, "Lan, hold on tight." Yes. Lan had just agreed when Li Zixuan started the bicycle. She suddenly felt like she was on a small boat, drifting in the sea. She was swaying, so she immediately screamed. However, when the bicycle stabilized, Lan'er's emotions calmed down when she felt the breeze and the speed of the bicycle. She began to enjoy the feeling of riding. "Brother, faster. Aya, brother, can you go faster?" After Lan'er got used to riding the bicycle, she began to feel that it was slow. Li Zixuan was helpless. This girl could no longer stay in the house. He could only say, "Let's go. Lan'er, sit tight. Brother will take you out for a walk." Okay. Lan'er was overjoyed when she heard that. Her 2 small canine teeth were exposed. Li Zixuan bade farewell to his family members and rode his bicycle out of the mansion. Shan, do you want to ride your cousin's bicycle too?" After Li Zixuan left, Mrs. Li looked kindly at Yi Fashion and smiled. She asked because she noticed that Yi Fashion had been staring at Li Zixuan's bicycle in a daze. Yi Fashion came back to his senses and hurriedly said, No, Aunt. Fashion was just thinking about why Cousin's bicycle only has 2 wheels, but it can move smoothly. He thought to himself, I'm not a child anymore. How can I still think about playing? I want to save the world. Hee hee. So that's how it is. Mrs. Lee looked at Yi Fashion with a faint smile. She didn't expose him, nor did she expose him. She just smiled and walked away. This bicycle has a weird shape, but it's much lighter than a horse carriage. It's also much faster. It's really a great tool for traveling. Yi Guizhong looked at the direction where Li Zixuan and his sister had disappeared. He stroked his beard and sighed with emotion. Mrs. Yi laughed and said, That's my good grandson for you. You have so many ideas. One look and I can tell that this car is amazing. Li Zixuan, who was outside the mansion, couldn't hear Mrs. Ye's praise. At that moment, he had already brought his sister out of Yongla Lane. The magical bicycle once again attracted the attention of passers-by. They were discussing and chasing after it. Wow, it's Marquis. Marquis is riding that strange bicycle again. Wow, this strange bicycle can carry people? It's amazing. It's so fast. The bicycle's appearance on the first day caused a huge commotion. It became the topic of many people's leisure conversations. Chapter 973. In fact, this bicycle wasn't easy to ride. It was even worse than a modern yellow car, because the pedals of this bicycle were placed directly on the axle of the front wheel. The power of the bicycle was mainly driven by the crank connected to the pedals. When the pedals turned, the front wheel would also turn. Under such circumstances, it was too difficult to speed up the bicycle. If Li Zixuan didn't know martial arts, he would have been exhausted just from riding from Yinshan to Chang'an. How would he have the energy to drive Lan around? Because modern bicycles were driven by chains, there was a larger transmission ratio between the front and back gears. Under normal circumstances, when the pedals turned, the rear wheel would turn several times. The so-called speed-changing bicycles had a flywheel added to the rear wheel, which was a gear that could change the number of teeth. Y represented the gear ratio, C represented the number of teeth of the driving gear, and N represented the number of teeth of the passive gear. The relationship between them could be expressed by a formula, Y equals Cn. For example, if the wheel of a bicycle had 48 teeth and the flywheel had 16 teeth, then the gear ratio would be 3. In other words, when the pedals turned 1 round, the flywheel would turn 3 times, which meant that the rear wheel would turn 3 times. Although increasing the gear ratio could increase the bicycle's speed, one couldn't ignore the fact that the chain drive in this case was a laborious lever. The larger the gear ratio, the more laborious it would be to pedal. Based on this comprehensive consideration, in reality, regardless of the model of the bicycle, the gear ratio was around 2 to 4. Speed-changing bicycles relied on changing the gear ratio to adjust the transmission ratio, thereby saving energy or increasing speed. Another problem was that the workshop could only make roller bearings for the various rotating parts of the bicycle. They couldn't make ball bearings yet. The roller bearings also caused Li Zixuan's bicycle to be a little jerky. The handlebars weren't flexible enough, and the wheels lost a lot of kinetic energy due to friction. This made it even more laborious to ride. Brother, look, isn't that Sister Changle and Brother Crown Prince? Lan, suddenly shouted excitedly when they arrived at the entrance of the East Market. Screech. When Li Zixuan heard Lan, voice, he quickly pressed the brakes. A hoarse screech resounded through the street, and the bicycle immediately stopped. Ouch! Due to inertia, Lan head hit Li Zixuan's back. The little girl couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. Chengqian, where is it? Li Zixuan used his right foot to support the bicycle and turned his head to ask, Stinky brother, why didn't you tell Lan when you stopped the car? Lan rubbed her head and pursed her lips. Of course, the little girl wasn't really angry. After complaining to Li Zixuan, she said, Hey, isn't that Brother Crown Prince? And, Hey, brother, they're coming our way. In fact, Li Zixuan had already found Li Chengqian and Changle in the crowd without her saying anything. There were 2 guards following behind the brother and sister. The guards were holding several brocade boxes in their hands. Presumably, The two of them had just finished shopping outside the palace. The horse-breaking sound from before had instantly attracted the attention of the siblings. Once they saw Li Zishuan and Lan they approached them. "Ah, Brother Xiaoxian, what kind of bicycle are you pushing?" Changle jogged over and looked at the bicycle beside Li Zishuan with surprise. "Yes, Xiaoxian, why have I never seen this kind of bicycle before?" Li Chengqian had also walked to Li Zishuan's side. Seeing Lan sitting on the oddly shaped bicycle, he also felt a wave of surprise and couldn't help but ask. "Brother Crown Prince is so stupid. This bicycle is called a bicycle. It can run on its own, and it runs very fast." Seeing that Li Chengqian and Changle both looked like they hadn't seen the world, Lan suddenly felt a deep sense of superiority. She couldn't help but think Mother said that Brother Crown Prince and Sister Changle were born in the royal family and had noble statuses. But now it seems that the royal family isn't as good as our family. The little girl's thoughts were always so simple and naive. Her family had a bicycle, but the royal family didn't. Clearly, her family was better than the royal family. Haha, that's right. This is a bicycle. The workshop just made it. It's normal that you haven't seen it before. Chengqian. Li Zishuan held the bicycle with one hand and patted Lan Er's head with the other. "Bicycle? Can this bicycle really move on its own?" Li Chengqian looked at the bicycle seriously and said with some disbelief. He always felt that this kind of bicycle would fall to the ground as soon as the driver let go. How could it move on its own? Actually, he couldn't be blamed for his lack of knowledge. The main thing was that ancient people often saw carriages and had formed a fixed mindset. A bicycle only had two wheels, and the two wheels were arranged in tandem. Naturally, it wasn't as stable as a carriage. Before Li Zishuan could say anything, Lan couldn't help but retort, "Why can't it? Lan and Brother Crown Prince rode this bicycle over just now." Changle covered her mouth and laughed. "Sister Lan it should be Brother Xiaoxian who rode the bicycle." "You rode the bicycle, right?" Lan didn't blush and her heart didn't skip a beat. Yes. That's what I wanted to express. Sister Changle, you're so understanding." This girl's sweet mouth could make people sick to death. Changle was overjoyed by her sweetness. "Huh, Lan how does it feel to sit on this bicycle?" Lan tilted her head and thought for a while. Then she said, "Yes. It's quite comfortable. It's just a little cold." Logically speaking, a bicycle was indeed faster than a carriage, but it definitely wasn't as warm as a carriage. After all, there was wind on all sides. This somewhat cute and quick-witted answer immediately made everyone laugh. "Sister Changle, do you want to try it too? It's really comfortable." Lan saw that everyone was laughing and thought that they didn't believe her, so she said again. Changle's eyes immediately flashed with a hint of interest. Li Chengqian inadvertently glanced at Changle, and his heart suddenly thumped. He hurriedly said, "Ahem. Changle, it's not early anymore. If father and mother don't see you for a long time, they'll be anxious." As her elder brother, Li Zishuan had actually noticed that Changle's feelings towards Li Zishuan were a little different. He couldn't tell if it was because of her attachment to her elder brother or because of the feelings between a man and a woman. But no matter which it wasn't appropriate for Changle to get too close to Li Zishuan. As for things like riding the same bicycle, that was even more out of the question. "Yes. Then, Brother Xiaoxian, Sister Lan goodbye." Changle's thin lips moved as she spoke softly. Wearing a pink palace dress, she looked even more delicate and pitiful under the setting sun. Chapter 974. It's getting late. Changle, Chengqian, go back quickly. Li Zishuan's eyes flashed as he spoke. Changle tasted bitterness in her mouth when she heard that. She felt even more regretful, but she could only say, "Brother Xiaoxian, Sister Lan take care." Lan said crisply, Sister Changle, take care too." Actually, this girl also felt regretful in her heart. However, she regretted that her bicycle didn't have the chance to shine in front of Changle and Li Chengqian. Cough, cough. In layman's terms, she didn't manage to act cool this time. She felt very uneasy. "Changle, let's go." We still have a chance to leave the palace next time. Li Chengxian urged. Changle nodded and then turned to leave with Li Chengxian. Sigh, what a pity. After Li Chengxian and Changle left, Lan'er sighed softly like a little adult. Li Zixuan recovered from his thoughts and ruffled Lan'er's ponytail. They can go their own way. What's a little girl like you feeling regretful about? Lan'er stuck out her tongue and said vaguely, in nothing. Lan'er is just regretful that I can't play with Sister Changle for a while longer. Li Zixuan shook his head and then got on the carriage. He pedaled and brought Lan'er to Yongle Lane. Did Li Zixuan really not know about Changle's feelings? Obviously not. He had read so many transmigration novels in his previous life. Many characters who transmigrated to ancient times were like charmers. They had endless luck with women and were often chased by all kinds of beauties. However, the protagonists were basically all low in EQ. They couldn't sense that the beauties were interested in them. Only when the beauties confessed to them in person did they realize that the beauties were interested in them. Then, in order not to hurt the beauties' feelings, they accepted them half-heartedly. Although this was how it was in the novels, Li Zixuan wasn't the kind of person who liked to play dumb and wait for beauties to come to him. His EQ wasn't lacking at all. He had already sensed Changle's unusual feelings for him. However, like Li Chengxian, he didn't know whether Changle's feelings for him were brotherly or romantic. If it was the former, it would be fine. If it was the latter, he would have to keep a distance from Changle in advance. It was undeniable that Changle was indeed a good girl, which could be judged from the history books. This was an extremely virtuous and good girl. Whoever could marry her would really have 8 lifetimes of dog-shit luck. However, should he, Li Zixuan, marry a good girl just because she was his? This was not only unfair to Han Yushi, but also to Changle. He, Li Zixuan, was not a tyrant or a bandit who would snatch anything good from his home. He was also not a beast who would have strange thoughts about an 8 or 9-year-old girl. He only hoped that Changle, a kind-hearted and virtuous girl, could live a healthy and happy life to 100 years old, instead of dying of illness in her 20s as recorded in the history books. As for other aspects, he really hadn't thought about it yet. Anyway, he was very satisfied with his current family, so there was no need to complicate matters. Yamacho, I heard that the workshop has produced a new toy. I think it's called a bicycle. Let me see it. The next day, early in the morning, Li Tai, the little fatty, came to the Li mansion and made a fuss. Chung Chumo followed behind him. Li Zixuan had just woken up and was about to eat breakfast. Hearing this, he said with a straight face, Chinke, Chumo, why didn't you go to class today? Did you skip school? Chung Chumo stared and said, Yamacho, are you confused? It's Saturday today. Why do you still go to school? Yes. Yamacho, don't deliberately change the topic. Hurry up and hand over that bicycle. Li Tai followed Chung Chumo and said, Li Zixuan just realized that today was Saturday. Recently, he had stayed in Chang and city for so long that he even forgot the day. This kind of headmaster was really dereliction of duty. Hand it over. This bicycle is mine. Why should I hand it over? Li Zixuan glanced at the little fatty and said with a half-smile. The little fatty was stunned. He wanted to swear, but when he saw that Li Zixuan's family was there, he tactfully swallowed the swear words that were about to come out of his mouth. Okay. It's just next to the stone table in the front yard. You guys go and have fun. Be careful. In order to prevent these two from harassing him, Li Zixuan quickly waved his hand and said, Li Tai and Chung Chumo did not expect Li Zixuan to be so easy to talk to today. They thought that they would have to pester him for a while before Li Zixuan would lend them the bicycle. Thank you, Yamacho. The two of them looked at each other and excitedly thanked him. Then they rushed to the bicycle outside the house. It would be strange if Brother Chinke and Brother Chonyo didn't fall to the ground. Lana held her bowl and giggled. This little girl had been with Li Zixuan for a long time. She actually learned some of Li Zixuan's catchphrases. Mrs. Li glared at her daughter. Lana was so scared that she immediately shrunk her neck and stuck out her tongue mischievously. Yuju, those two children just now are. When Li Tai and Chung Chumo arrived, Yi Guozhong did not speak. Now he asked, Mrs. Li quickly replied, "Father, those two children just now, one is the current king of Wei, and the other is the eldest son of Duke Lu. They are both Xian Er's students at Yanwang College." Yi Guozhong's hand, which was stroking his beard, paused and almost pulled it out. Before coming to Chang, and he only knew that Li Zishuan was favored by the emperor. He did not expect Li Zishuan to be so familiar with the princes and the sons of Duke Lu. Moreover, these people were very respectful to Li Zishuan. At this moment, he finally understood Li Zishuan's influence in Chang and, Xian is really promising. Shan if you have time, you should learn from your cousin. Yes, grandmother. Li Tai and Cheng Chumo did not know what was going on in the house. However, these two were really about to fall to the ground. Bang, bang, bang. In the yard, people and bicycles flipped over frequently. Chinke, come down quickly. I personally trained many wild horses a few years ago. I don't believe that I can't tame this thing today. Cheng Chumo urged in disbelief. Hey, Chonyo, wait a little longer. I can definitely do it this time. TSK. Hey, if you don't believe me, open your eyes and take a good look. Bang. Just as he finished speaking, Li Tai once again fell to the ground, causing a cloud of dust to rise up. Chapter 975. Oh, awesome. Too awesome. Riding a bicycle is so much better than riding a horse. Yamacho, lend me your bicycle for a spin. Facts have proven that if a person is lacking in one aspect, they will always be strong in another. Although Cheng Chumo was not as good as Li Tai in terms of cultural studies, his talent in sports left Li Tai in the dust. In less than a quarter of an hour, he was already able to get on the bike and ride. After another quarter of an hour, he was already able to ride the bike steadily. Li Tai, who was watching from the side, was filled with envy and jealousy. F***CK. Cheng Chumo, stop. What am I going to ride if you ride away? F***CK. Despicable. Li Tai, who was sitting on a stone bench in the front yard licking his wounds, quickly stood up and cursed angrily. Unfortunately, right after Cheng Chumo said those words, he didn't wait for Li Zishuan's agreement before riding his bicycle out of the Li residence. Even if Li Tai had 4 legs, he wouldn't be able to catch up. Chinke, find a doctor to treat your wounds first. Cheng Chumo's wild laughter was left in the air. Li Tai said angrily, F***CK? Ugly bull, just you wait. Wah, brother Chinke, you're really going to shit yourself. At this moment, Lana had finished her breakfast. The little girl walked out and pointed at Li Tai. Li Tai opened his mouth. At this moment, his heart was about to break down. Lon, have you finished your homework? Hurry up and do your homework. Li Zishuan did not want to embarrass Li Tai too much. He walked over and said, in the past, Lon did have a tutor, but this girl was too mischievous and was not the type to study. That tutor did not stay in the Li family for long before he quit. Scholars in this era still had a lot of integrity. When they met a rotten wood that could not be carved, no matter how much money the other party offered, they would not be moved by money. Later, under Li Zishuan's indulgence, Father Li and Mrs. Li did not find a teacher for Lon. It was not until Han Yushi married into the Li family that Lon-er's studies were handed over to Han Yushi. Although Han Yushi had not systematically received the official education of the Tang Dynasty, it was more than enough to teach Lon-er. Brother, it's still early. Lon-er stuck out her tongue and said with a bitter face, who would ask someone to do homework so early in the morning? Li Zishuan said helplessly, Early? Do you know that the clumsy bird flies first? Quickly go and find Yushi. Oh, Lon. Pursed her lips and went into the house to play with Han Yushi. Chinke, are your injuries serious? Do you want to find an imperial physician to bandage it for you? Looking at Li Tai, who had a bump on his head, Li Zishuan said with concern. As for whether he was gloating in his heart, only God knew. Oh, no need. Yamacho, it's all superficial injuries. Li Tai waved his hand awkwardly. He did not expect that he would almost be thrown to the ground when he came to test the bike. How embarrassing. You really don't need it? I really don't need it. Then why aren't you leaving? Are you waiting for me to ask you to stay for lunch? Li Zishuan changed the topic and said angrily. A cough cough. Li Tai was stunned and almost choked to death. After a while, he said embarrassedly, Mountain Leader, I just want to ask if there are any bikes that are lower in height. The one just now was a little too high. The reason why he fell so miserably just now was not unrelated to the height of the bike. This first bike was designed according to Li Zishuan's height. Cheng Chumo could barely ride it, but Li Tai could not even touch the ground after he got on it. Who else would fall if not him? Li Zishuan said with a smile. We don't have it now. Li Tai's eyes lit up and said excitedly, Huh, that means we can have it in the future? The little fatty was different from Li Zishuan and Cheng Chumo. For some reason, Li Zishuan and Cheng Chumo grew vertically since they were young, but he grew horizontally. Although he had lost most of his fat after a month of military training, he still could not get up with his height. Therefore, this first bike was full of malice to him. Li Zishuan looked at Li Tai and said with a smile, Yes, but not necessary. Li Tai was pleasantly surprised at first, then confused, and finally angry. F***CK. What do you mean by not necessary? How is it not necessary? Hey. Yamacho, don't go. Oh, whoa. As Cheng Chumo rode his bicycle, he could feel the cool breeze blowing past his ears. This guy's intuition was so good that he couldn't help but wail like a ghost and howl like a wolf all the way. It was hard not to attract attention. Isn't this the two-wheeled bike that Marquis Yong and rode yesterday? Why is it in the hands of this young man? Zhao Lauer, are you blind? That is obviously the eldest son of Lu Guogong's family. Do I need to tell you about his relationship with Marquis Yong? And what's so strange about Marquis's two-wheeled bike being in his hands? So it's the eldest son of Cheng Chumo. No wonder. Speaking of which, this two-wheeled bike is really strange. It can run so fast without a horse. I've lived for so long, but I've never seen anything like this before. Yes. This is my first time seeing it too. When this bike is released at Strange Interest Pavilion, I'll definitely buy one. Tisk, I'm just afraid that you won't be able to afford it. Meng Laosi, don't look down on me. Cheng Chumo sped all the way, leaving behind a legend. Oh no, it was a heated discussion. Through word of mouth, the people knew that Li Zishuan's family had a two-wheel bike that could travel at high speeds without a horse. Many people who had never seen such a bike before started to gather around Yongle Lane, waiting for Cheng Chumo to return the bike. However, this guy seemed to be having a little fun. It was already late in the morning, but he still did not return the bike. Brat, did you get the car from Little Xian? Cheng Yaojin returned from court. Coincidentally, Cheng Chumo and Cheng Chuyang were taking turns riding the bike in the courtyard. The old man was immediately amused. Cheng Chumo stopped the bike, looked at his father, and asked, Father, how did you know? Old Cheng took off his court attire and handed it to the maidservant beside him. Then he walked quickly to Cheng Chumo and slapped the latter's head twice, saying, Hey, your father heard yesterday that Little Xian rode a two-wheel bike back from the workshop that can move on its own. Hurry up and get down here for me. Cheng Chumo glared at him and said, Father, what are you doing? I still have to return this bike later. Cheng Yaojin slapped his son's head twice again and said, Hurry up and get lost. You don't need this bit of time anyway. Let me try this bike. As soon as he finished speaking, he pulled Cheng Chumo down without any explanation. Hey, Father, do you know how to ride it? This bike isn't that easy to ride. Don't fall and shit out like Chin K. Chapter 976. Would a martial arts expert at the Grandmaster level fall while riding a bicycle? The answer was obviously no. Cheng Yaojin demonstrated the answer to this question personally. Even though old Cheng had never ridden a bicycle before, and no one had ever taught him how to ride one, after he got on the bicycle, he relied on his strong control of his body's balance to imitate Cheng Chumo's cycling movements just now. He was able to do it without a teacher. As he rode, he even left the handlebars with both hands and showed off his riding skills. Cheng Chumo and Cheng Chuyang were stunned. Good. This bicycle is interesting. Although it's not as fast as a warhorse at full speed, this thing doesn't need to be fed grass. And there's no wear and tear. It's more convenient than a warhorse. After riding the bicycle and circling the front yard twice, Cheng Yaojin patted the seat of the bicycle, laughed, and praised. Dad, you're not thinking of using this bicycle to replace a warhorse, are you? Cheng Chumo was a little confused when he heard that. When he thought of how the other side had thousands of soldiers and horses during the war, and how they were a team of bicycles, he couldn't help but feel his scalp tingle. Smack! This silly guy's scalp was still tingling, and then it hurt again because Cheng Yaojin had mercilessly slapped him on the head again. Rascal! When did this old man say that he wanted to use a bicycle to replace a warhorse? How can you play around with important matters of the country? Quickly return the bicycle to little Xian. Cheng Yaojin was a little exasperated and said, "Oh, I'll return in a while." Cheng Chumo rubbed his head and said gloomily. Cheng Yaojin glared and said, "What do you mean in a while? Return it now. You rascal, haven't you had enough after playing for so long?" Cheng Chumo was helpless and could only say, "Yes, Dad. I'll return it now." "Big brother, let me help you return it," Cheng Chuyang suddenly said. This time, it was Cheng Chumo's turn to stare. "Hey, little Yang, you're really dreaming." "No way." After saying that, he quickly snatched the bicycle from Cheng Yaojin's hand and said, "Dad, I'll return the bicycle." "Okay." "Little Xian, I heard that the Curious Pavilion has a new two-wheeled carriage. Can I take a look at it?" When it was close to noon, Wang Rinbiao arrived at the Li Zishuan's residence with his icily arrogant servant girl. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Wang Rinbiao looked at Li Zishuan and explained his intentions. "What? Is the Wang family interested in the bicycle business?" Li Zishuan asked with a smile. Wang Rinbiao nodded and said, "That's right. The Wang family is very interested in this kind of vehicle that can move quickly without the help of animals. I can foresee that in the future, there will be more and more people riding such carriages in the Great Tang." After spending so much time with Li Zishuan, Wang Rinbiao knew Li Zishuan's character very well. Therefore, he didn't hide anything and admitted it directly. "Huh, you have good taste." Li Zishuan couldn't help but sigh in praise. A bicycle was logically much more convenient than a horse. In the future, as the living standards of the people of the Great Tang rose, bicycles would definitely enter every household. Thinking back to his previous life, in the first 20 to 30 years after the founding of the People's Republic of China, the Phoenix bicycle was a popular product that the people of Suzhou, Zhejiang, and Shanghai scrambled for. In fact, there was a period where one could only buy one with a ticket. In 1978, owning a Phoenix or Forever brand bicycle was enough to make a family proud. After the 21st century, when a boy got married, he would need a house, a car, and an expensive betrothal gift. Furthermore, the house had to be renovated and the home appliances had to be complete. However, in the 70s and 80s, a bicycle was enough. Even though the current situation in Great Tang was different from that of China, the development of bicycles should be similar. Therefore, this was a market with great potential. However, that bicycle isn't at home now. It was borrowed by Chonyo in the morning. "Rinbiao, if you want to take a look, you can either wait here for a while or come back another day," Li Zishuan said to Wang Rinbiao after putting away his messy thoughts. "Oh, that's really unfortunate." Hearing this, Wang Rinbiao did not suspect anything and said regretfully, "Xiao Xian, I'm here to return the bicycle." Coincidentally, at this moment, Cheng Chumo's voice could be heard from outside the courtyard. When there was no one around him, he would never call him Yamacho. Instead, he would call Li Zishuan by his name. "Huh, who said that it's unfortunate?" "Rinbiao, looks like you came at the right time," Li Zishuan said with a smile. As they spoke, Cheng Chumo rode his bicycle into the courtyard. "Xiao Xian, your bicycle." "Yo, isn't this Rinbiao? You're here too?" The relationship between the Wang family and Li Zishuan was well known. Furthermore, Wang Rinbiao was a relative of the emperor and had been active in Chang, and for the past few years, Cheng Chumo could still recognize him. "Hee, what a coincidence. Chonyo, how have you been?" Wang Rinbiao stood up and clasped his hands. Cheng Chumo laughed and waved his hand. I know that you must have something to discuss with Yamacho. I won't disturb you any further. Let's meet again. After that, he parked his bicycle beside the stone table in the front yard of the Lee residence. This was where he got his bicycle in the morning. Then, he bid farewell and left. Although he looked like a brute, he was still very observant when it came to crucial moments. Here, Renbiao, this is the bicycle that you wanted to see. I call it a bicycle. How does it feel? Wang Renbiao nodded. It's amazing. Not only can this slender two-wheeled bicycle stand firm, it can also run very fast without the help of animals. If it's sold, it will definitely be very popular. I wonder if Xiao Xian is willing to share some of the goods with the Wang family. Li Zishuan did not hesitate and replied, "Of course. Not to mention that the Wang family is an important member of the Chamber of Commerce. Just based on my friendship with Renbiao, the Wang family will definitely get a large share of the goods. Moreover, the output of the bicycle will definitely surprise you. The new workshop now is no longer the same as before. Especially after he updated the equipment for the new workshop next year, the productivity will be even more amazing." Wang Renbiao said happily, "Haha, that's great. To be honest, Xiao Xian, the Wang family will definitely not complain about the number of bicycles that you can produce." Li Zishuan smiled and did not say anything. After Wang Renbiao finished talking about the bicycle, he sighed faintly and said, "Today, other than discussing this matter with you, Xiao Xian, I'm also here to say goodbye to you." Li Zishuan was surprised. "Goodbye? Renbiao, where are you going?" Wang Renbiao was silent for a while and replied, "A few days ago, His Majesty appointed me as the governor of Qizhou. I will take office after the new year. At that time, it will be difficult to drink and chat with you." Chapter 977. There were 3 ways to select an official in the Tang Dynasty: family background, mixed background, and imperial examinations. Everyone was familiar with the imperial examinations. Ever since Emperor Wan of Sui started the imperial examinations, China's selection system was gradually replaced by the imperial examinations. However, everything had a process. During the Tang Dynasty, the imperial examinations weren't the most mainstream method to select an official. At this time, there were still many officials who relied on family background and mixed background to enter the imperial court. Of course, in the Tang Dynasty, there were strict rules regarding who could become an official. Firstly, those who had a title could be inherited by their descendants. Secondly, relatives of the emperor could be given an official rank based on their relationship with the emperor. Thirdly, the great-grandson of a third-rank official or above, the grandson of a fifth-rank official or above, and the son of a second-rank official could become an official. Wang Renbiao's situation was the second type of official. He was appointed as a member of the imperial family and immediately became the provincial governor of a province. His starting point was much higher than those from humble families, mainly because his mother was Princess Tang and governor of Qizhou. Congratulations, Renbiao. I hope that Renbiao can benefit the people of the province and achieve great achievements. Li Zishuan was stunned for a moment before he cupped his hands towards Wang Renbiao. Although he didn't know where Qizhou was, the governor of a province wasn't a small official. In modern times, it was equivalent to a high-ranking official. For a long time, the Tang Dynasty used a 3-tiered administrative system of Dao, prefecture, and county. However, the actual authority of each Dao differed greatly, and there were many changes. Furthermore, the basis was the expansion of the regional commander's authority, so this system was often called the virtual 3 levels. At the beginning of Jingguan Dynasty, Li Er divided the world into 10 Daos. The Qizhou that Wang Renbiao was about to go to belonged to Gongji Province, also known as the Fengxiang Prefecture. Its governing area was Yong County, and it governed 9 counties. It was relatively close to Chong, and its territory was relatively large. At the very least, this Qizhou was larger than the Sui province that Wang Renbiao's father managed, and it was closer to the political center of the Tang Dynasty. It could be seen that Princess Tang had spent a lot of effort in front of Li Er for her son's future. At this moment, Wang Rinbiao didn't have much joy on his face. He bitterly smiled and said, "Being an official isn't Rinbiao's specialty. I don't dare to ask for credit, but I don't want to make any mistakes." Li Zishuan smiled and said, "Rinbiao, don't be so pessimistic. You have the backing of the Wang family. After you take office, relying on the Wang family's resources to develop agriculture and commerce in Qizhou, it won't be difficult to make the people rich. As long as you serve the people wholeheartedly, the people will remember it in their hearts." Wang Rinbiao nodded and cupped his hands, saying, "I'll take advantage of your auspicious words, little Xian. When the time comes, I'm afraid I'll have to ask you for advice on your experience as an official. In less than a year, you have managed your fief so well that the people can live and work in peace and contentment. You're truly a model for all the officials of the great Tang." Everyone liked to hear good words, and Li Zishuan was no exception. Moreover, these are not only good words, but also the truth. He chuckled and said, "You flatter me. I just can't bear to see the common people suffer. Rinbiao, as long as you treat the people well, I believe that after your term in Qizhou ends, the people will definitely see you off." Wang Rinbiao nodded solemnly and said, "Although I don't want to be an official in this life, since I'm an official now, I will do my best to benefit the people." Li Zishuan laughed and said, "Haha, if I come to Qizhou in the future, I will drink and chat with Rinbiao again." Wang Rinbiao cupped his hands and said, "Definitely." After that, he turned around and left. When Leng Yao passed by Li Zishuan, she hesitated for a moment, but still cupped her hands and said, "Marquis, take care. You are a good official. See you again." At the beginning, she did not like Li Zishuan, but in the end, Li Zishuan's powerful martial arts strength and extraordinary charisma made her admire him. Her attitude towards Li Zishuan had changed a lot. Li Zishuan smiled and said, "Miss Leng, take care too." Wang Rinbiao's family was not the only one eyeing the bicycle business. In the afternoon, the other shareholders of the Yin Huang Chamber of Commerce, Chao Wendong, Lin Wenyuan, Liao Shifan, and Zhang Jingyang all came to ask about the bicycle business. Back then, Liao Shifan had purchased 40,000 strings of coins worth of shares in the Chamber of Commerce, but 20,000 of them had been purchased for his good friend, Feng Zhihua. After Feng Zhihua had returned from the sea and heard of such a good deal, he had immediately given the 20,000 strings of coins to Liao Shifan without hesitation. Therefore, the first batch of members of the Yin Huang Chamber of Commerce was supposed to be 6, but now it was 7. Li Zishuan did not say anything when he knew about it. After all, these people's private transactions were not his business. It was worth mentioning that Li Changqian personally came to Yongla Lane to find Li Zishuan when it was close to evening. He was not only a shareholder of the Strange Interest Pavilion, but also the first batch of members of the Yin Huang Chamber of Commerce. "What? Changqian, you're also interested in bicycles. You're the crown prince, but you're doing business. I'm afraid it won't be good if word gets out, right?" Li Zishuan could not help but ask when he saw Li Changqian. Li Changqian looked around with a guilty conscience and said, "Little Xian, you can't say that. Father Emperor's many children all have their own shops. Although I can't personally participate in the matters of the merchants, the people below can still." Li Zishuan suddenly understood and nodded. He suddenly thought of something and frowned. "Changqian, could it be that you lack money?" Actually, he wanted to ask if Li Changqian had started to keep a male pet, but this was not something he could ask directly. He remembered that in the history books, Li Changqian liked men and even kept a male pet called Cheng Xian. Logically speaking, the dividends at the Strange Interest Pavilion gave Li Changqian every month should be enough to cover the daily expenses of the Eastern Palace. Li Zishuan could not understand why Li Changqian was lacking money, so he thought of that. Li Changqian did not suspect anything and nodded honestly. "Yes, I'm a little short of money recently." Without waiting for Li Zishuan to ask, he directly said, "The weather has been getting colder and colder. Mother's palace has not been renovated for many years, and once winter comes, Mother's illness relapses easily. Father's back has also suffered many injuries in the early years, and when the weather is cold, Father's old injuries relapse easily. I wanted to help father and mother repair the palace, and coincidentally saw your bicycle yesterday. I felt that it would be very popular, so I came to ask you for some goods. Oh, I see. Li Zishuan rubbed his nose and looked a little embarrassed. He did not think that he would think Li Chengqian's filial piety was so dirty. That should not be. No problem. It is reasonable that when the time comes, Chengqian will have a share of the bicycles. You can rest assured. Chapter 978. All right. Thank you, Xiaoxian. I'll get someone to contact you later. That person's name is Su Haobuan. He's in charge of all the shops under me. Li Chengqian smiled and cupped his hands. Li Zishuan nodded lightly and said, I'll arrange it. All right. Xiaoxian, when can the bicycle workshop produce the second one? Father and mother wanted to see it for themselves after hearing about it yesterday. Li Chengqian suddenly said. Li Zishuan thought for a moment and replied, It should be in the next 2 days. The workshop has enough manpower now, so the speed will be much faster than before. When the time comes, I'll get someone to send one over to you first. Li Chengqian said happily. Thank you. After chatting for a while, Li Chengqian said goodbye. The next day, after breakfast, Li Zishuan was practicing his swordsmanship in the west courtyard. Han Yushi suddenly smiled and walked into the courtyard quickly. She shouted to Li Zishuan, Husband, come take a look. The beans have really sprouted. Swoosh. Li Zishuan's 5 senses were very sharp when he was practicing his swordsmanship. Although Han Yushi was far away, he still heard every word she said. He quickly put away the wind-chasing sword and took the sweat towel that Xiaoxi handed over. After wiping his sweat, he walked over and said happily, Wife, are you serious? Actually, counting the days, the beans that he soaked previously should have sprouted by now. It was just that Han Yushi had been changing the water for the beans these days, so he had forgotten about this matter. Husband, it's true. The beans that you soaked last time have all sprouted. They're as long as a finger. Han Yushi smiled happily. The beans had sprouted. This proved that her efforts over the past few days had not been in vain. It also proved that she could help Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan said happily, All right, let's go take a look. The husband and wife quickly walked to the kitchen. Han Yushi led Li Zishuan to a table. She brought over a basin with a bamboo sieve on top of it. Han Yushi lifted the wet cloth covering the bamboo sieve, and a patch of white bean sprouts immediately appeared in front of Li Zishuan. Under the erosion of the water, the beans swelled up and became fat. Tender white sprouts emerged from the beans, fresh and juicy. Seeing such fresh vegetables in this season, Li Zishuan couldn't help but salivate. His appetite was immediately aroused. Good. Annie Zhao, pick some longer ones and prepare to fry some for father, mother, and grandmother to try. Li Zishuan, who had just finished breakfast, inexplicably felt a little hungry. Some people might think that being able to eat meat in ancient times was a kind of happiness. But to Li Zishuan in winter, fresh vegetables were the way to go. Eating fish and meat every day was really difficult to arouse his appetite. So when he saw bean sprouts now, he felt a little hungry. Yes, young master. Andy Zhao responded and then said awkwardly, But young master, how do we fry this kind of thing? She had stayed in the Li residence for so long and learned a lot of cooking skills from Han Yushi. However, she really didn't know how to fry bean sprouts. Oh, then Annie Zhao, after you're done choosing, leave it first. I'll fry it myself later. Li Zishuan patted his head and said, Husband, why don't you say it and I'll do it? Han Yushi covered the bamboo sieve with a wet cloth and raised her head. Li Zishuan thought for a while and nodded. Actually, it's easy to make bean sprouts. I'll say it again. With your talent, it shouldn't be a problem. Han Yushi blinked and said, Then please say it, husband. I'll remember it. First, put oil in a hot pan and fry the pepper. Then, put in chopped green onions and garlic and mung bean sprouts. Stir fry until the water is about to come out. Add salt and stir for a while. Sprinkle vinegar and stir-fry until the fire is reduced. It's simple and doesn't lose the taste. Li Zishuan paced back and forth, speaking one sentence after another. I understand. Hee. I heard that Yushi is going to make a new dish today. This old woman is going to have good food again. At noon, in the main hall of the Li residence, the whole family gathered together. Yi Guozhong, an old madam, Yi had the highest seniority, so naturally, they sat at the head of the table. There were 4 or 5 dishes on the table: fried chicken with black bean sauce, fresh shrimp with sweet wine, mushroom and chicken pot, fried crab meat with rice flavor, shrimp and scallops. It could be said that the fragrance was overflowing, but without exception, they were all meat dishes. Old Madam, Yi said with a smile at this moment. After staying in the Li residence for so many days, Han Yushi's culinary skills had completely conquered her and Yi Guozhong. Even Yi Fashion, who had been practicing Taoism since he was young, had to admit that Han Yushi's culinary skills were superb. In front of these dishes made by Han Yushi, sometimes he even had the idea of eating and drinking in the Li residence for the rest of his life. This made him blame himself after the meal. He was determined to save the world. How could he give up his dream for the sake of good food? Hee. Little Xian is really lucky to have married this girl. I've traveled around the world in my early years and eaten a lot of delicacies from all over the world, but I didn't expect to become a greedy person when I came here. Ha! After old Madam Yi finished speaking, Yi Guozhong also stroked his beard and laughed. Mrs. Li said warmly, "Father, Mother, since you like the dishes made by Yushi, then stay here for a few more days." I'm coming. At this moment, Han Yushi's voice came in. She had already changed into the white dress that she usually wore. Usually, when she was cooking, she would change into clothes that were specially used for cooking. After she was done, she would change back. This way, she could avoid being contaminated with the smoke and fire in the kitchen. Han Yushi walked in with a smile. Behind her, Xiaohe helped her carry a plate of dishes. Yo, what dish is this? Why is it so fresh? The bean sprouts that had just come out of the pot were placed on the dining table. A fragrance immediately entered everyone's nostrils. Old Madam Yi looked at the tender and white bean sprouts on the plate and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Grandmother, this is stir-fried bean sprouts. Husband soaked some soybeans a few days ago. Today the soybeans sprouted, so I stir-fried it. Grandmother, try it and see if it's edible. Han Yushi smiled. Entrance. It looks delicious just by looking at it. Old Madam Ye's face was full of smiles. As she spoke, she had already picked up her chopsticks, picked up a few white and tender bean sprouts from the plate, and put them into her mouth. A moment later, the old lady praised repeatedly. And good. It's crispy and delicious, and the heat is just right. It makes people salivate. This stir-fried bean sprouts is really appetizing. Yushi, your cooking skills are really getting better and better. Old Master, Yuzhu, Jingmo Shana, or Xiaoxian, all of you quickly try it too. When everyone saw this, how could they be polite? After Yi Guozhong tasted the bean sprouts with his chopsticks, he praised, I didn't expect that the sprouts of beans could be so delicious after stir-frying. It's really wonderful. Chapter 979. Yes. This bean sprout is really delicious. Lan'er will only eat this bean sprout in the future and won't eat meat. After Lan'er tasted the bean sprout with her chopsticks, she couldn't stop eating. The little girl's appetite hadn't been good recently. It was rare to see her eating so energetically. Madam Li saw this and was happy in her heart. Actually, bean sprout wasn't that delicious. Furthermore, there weren't any chili in the Tang Dynasty, so it lacked a flavor when stir-fried. However, to people who couldn't eat fresh vegetables in the winter, bean sprout that just came out of the water was undoubtedly a top-notch delicacy. Even money couldn't buy it. Crispy, tender, juicy, and good taste. How can bean sprout be so delicious? Xianer, you must have used a special method to make the bean sprout, right? After Li Jingma ate the bean sprout, he couldn't help but be moved. He thought for a moment and said with a smile. Li Zishuan replied, Yes. Father, if these beans want to grow sweet and tender sprouts, they must go through a unique process. Since father, mother, grandfather, and grandmother all like to eat it so much, then I'll get the servants to make more. It's not good to just eat fish and meat in the winter. It's not good for the body. Before the greenhouse vegetables grow, our family must have beans sprout to eat every day. After soybean sprout, the carotene content would increase by 1 to 2 times, vitamin B2 by 2 to 4 times, vitamin B12 by 10 times, and vitamin E by 2 times. Niacin, folic acid, and other substances would also increase by a few times. After soybean sprout, the aspartic acid would increase sharply. Therefore, eating soybean sprout often could reduce the accumulation of lactic acid in the body and help relieve fatigue. The nutritional value of mung bean sprout was also not inferior. Not only did it contain protein, carotene, calcium, phosphorus, iron, and other minerals, it also contained rich vitamins, especially vitamin C, which was especially rich. Therefore, from a nutritional point of view, it was very necessary to eat bean sprout in the winter because these vitamins and minerals weren't found in fish. Husband, let this concubine do it. You have your own things to do. Han Yushi said warmly. Li Zishuan nodded and said, That's good. I'll have to trouble you then. In terms of food, he was at ease with Han Yushi doing things. In the past, he did like to cook, but he only cooked because the cooking method in this era was monotonous and the dishes he cooked were not delicious. In fact, Li Zishuan was still quite lazy deep down. Han Yushi took over the kitchen, and the dishes she made were even more delicious than his. What reason did he have to refuse? Another day passed. This morning, Li Zishuan went out with Lan to walk the dog. It was their family's cheap dog, Little Gray. This little thing was really cheap sometimes. In the past, when Lan took it out to play, it often hooked up with other people's female dogs. This was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that it always hooked up with other people's male dogs when other people's female dogs and male dogs were doing something good. Naturally, wherever it went, there would be chaos. After that, Lan no longer dared to bring Little Gray out to play alone. Only when Li Zishuan was around would she pester Li Zishuan to go with her. Ink Girl, you know how to ride a bicycle now? Seeing Mo Lingwei riding a bicycle valiantly towards them, Li Zishuan stopped and asked with a smile. When Mo Lingwei approached the Li residence, she squeezed the brakes. With a hoarse sound of metal rubbing, the bicycle steadily stopped in front of Li Zishuan and Lan. Mo Lingwei jumped down from the bicycle and said proudly to Li Zishuan, What's so difficult about this? It's just a bicycle. Isn't it a piece of cake for me? This girl, who was at that almost fell and disfigured while learning how to ride a bicycle a few days ago. Li Zishuan felt inexplicably funny and said, Ink Girl is really talented and smart. In just a few days, she learned how to ride a bicycle. I really admire her. I really admire her. Ha! Among them, Li Zishuan emphasized the words just a few days. After Mo Lingwei heard it, her little face blushed. She stomped her feet angrily and said, Good people really don't have good karma. I came over with good intentions to help Yamacho deliver the bicycle to you. Yamacho, you mock me. Forget it. I won't be delivering the bicycle. I'll ride it back. After saying this, the girl really wanted to get on the bicycle and leave. Li Zishuan hurriedly said, Cough, cough. Wait. Ink Girl, you misunderstood me. I was sincerely praising you just now. I wasn't mocking you. Think about it. You could be considered the first girl in the Tang Dynasty to learn how to ride a bicycle. Shouldn't I say that you're talented and smart? Isn't that right? Lana. Yes. Sister Wei is so amazing. Lana still doesn't know how to ride a bicycle. You're also the first sister that Lan has seen who knows how to ride a bicycle. Lan very cooperatively said in a crisp voice. Flattery won't work no matter how many times you try. Besides, Mo Lingwei was just putting on an act. She didn't really want to leave. Li Zishuan and Lan words finally hit the nail on the head. She was instantly overjoyed. Really? Lana, sister, are you really that amazing? Yes. Of course it's true. Lana even heard that Sister Wei made a telescope a while ago. I'm really impressed. When Lan grows up, I want to be as amazing as Sister Wei. Lan blinked her eyes. Her naive and innocent look instantly made Mo Lingwei believe this girl. Hee hee. Lan is so obedient. The next time you come to Yin Mountain, Sister will bring you to catch bird eggs, fish, and prawns. This woman really gets into character easily. Li Zishuan shook his head and thought unhappily in his heart. Of course, Lan was a little drama queen. This girl even acted out his journey to the west in the spring. Okay. Lan loves to catch bird eggs. Lana wants to fish too. When Lana heard that, she instantly clapped her hands excitedly. This time, she wasn't pretending. She was really excited. Li Zishuan frowned. To be honest, he was a little worried that Lana would be led astray by Mo Lingwei. Listen, picking bird nests, fishing, and catching prawns. Is this something a girl should do? He didn't want her to become a tough woman. Cough, cough. Girl, this is the bicycle that I asked Faubert to rush out a few days ago. Li Zishuan coughed dryly and quickly interrupted the conversation between the two. Mo Lingwei smiled and touched Lan Er's ponytail. She replied, yes. Now that the bicycle is here, I should go back. But this place is so far away from Yun Mountain. Yamacho, you can't bear to let me walk back, right? Ha, woman, you're tricking me again. When Li Zishuan heard that, he couldn't help but grumble in his heart. Chapter 980. Girl, you mean? In front of the Li residence, Li Zishuan's old face couldn't help but darken. Hee hee. Of course, I'm borrowing Yamacho's bicycle to use. Don't worry, I'll ask Xiaoningzi to help me return it tomorrow. Mo Lingwei smiled and said. Li Zishuan was speechless. As expected, this woman wanted to trick him into giving her his bicycle again. Ahem. Since it's a long journey, why don't I borrow Girl a horse to ride? Bicycles are very tiring to ride. No, Yamacho, I don't know how to ride a horse yet. Mo Lingwei pretended to be a weak woman and said. Li Zishuan almost spat in her face. He thought to himself, I don't believe you. If you don't know how to ride a horse, then no woman can ride a horse. But to be honest, Li Zishuan also understood that in terms of pestering, he couldn't compete with a woman. He could only helplessly say, okay, the bicycle is in the courtyard. You can go get it yourself. After saying that, he shook his head and was about to leave with Lan. Thank you, Yamacho. Sister Lan, do you want to go to Yinshan with me today to play? Mo Lingwei laughed and began to kidnap Lan. Not today, Lan will find Sister Wei another day to play. Lan thought about it and still rejected. It was rare for Li Zishuan to accompany her to walk the dog. Lan felt that this place was more important. Okay then, when you go to Yinshan next time, you must come and play with me. Mo Lingwei was a little reluctant to let go of Lan this sweet little cutie. Yes, of course. Before leaving to walk the dog, Li Zishuan had already ordered someone to send the bicycles sent by the workshop to Li Changqian. These two bicycles were specially made for old Li. They were painted with a layer of gold and had a dragon pattern on them. Mo Lingwei could be said to be fearless due to her ignorance. She actually dared to openly ride this carriage into the city. What was even more miraculous was that no soldiers stopped her along the way. Since the journey was safe, Li Zishuan didn't say anything. Anyway, when Li Changqian asked Li for a bicycle, he didn't say that it had to be a brand new one that was fresh from the factory. It was normal for it to be covered in dust during the transportation. Besides, Mo Lingwei was helping Li test the car, wasn't she? The Imperial Palace. When it was close to noon, Li finished his morning court session. He walked out of Taiji Palace and headed for Li Zheng Palace. Under normal circumstances, he would have lunch with Zhang's son Imperial Palace at noon. Imperial Father, I've already asked for a bicycle from the Marquis of Yong, and especially gifted to Imperial Father. After entering the west court of the Imperial Palace, it didn't take long for them to arrive at the Li Zheng Hall. However, they coincidentally ran into Li Changqian. Li Changqian bowed towards Li. Li raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, Oh. It's rare for Changqian to have such filial piety. I'll accept it. It could be seen that Li Changxian took the initiative to gift the bicycle to Li Er. At this moment, when he heard Li Er agree, Li Changxian smiled slightly and waved his hand behind him. Immediately, a guard carried a golden bicycle down from a carriage. It was especially dazzling under the sun. The dragon pattern on the body of the bicycle was vivid and lifelike, causing the entire bicycle to be filled with a domineering aura. The black tires were stable and restrained. There wasn't a trace of dust on them. Presumably, after the Eastern Palace received the bicycle from Li Zishuan in the morning, they must have arranged for someone to thoroughly clean it. Not bad, not bad. Li Zishuan, this brat, is quite thoughtful this time. Push it over here and let me try it. After Li Er looked it up and down, the satisfaction in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. After a while, he pointed at the golden chariot and smiled. Li Changxian was shocked and hurriedly said, "Imperial Father, you absolutely can't. This bicycle is extremely unstable to ride. You need to master certain skills before you can officially ride it." Li Er said with some disbelief, "Back then, I wasn't afraid of the 18 rebellions. Now, how can a mere bicycle stump me? Chengqian, move aside. Today I'll show you." After saying that, Old Li rolled up his sleeves and stepped forward to take the golden chariot from the hands of the Eastern Palace Guard. He already knew of the existence of bicycles from the information provided by Zhao Song. As for the operating principles of bicycles, he also had a rough idea based on the information. At this moment, touching the cold handlebars of the golden chariot, Li Er easily got onto the seat with his left foot still on the ground. "Your Majesty, this bicycle only has 2 wheels. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for it to stand. You are the ruler of a country. Every word and action of yours affects the people of the world. How can you put yourself in danger?" Just as Li Er was about to step on the pedals of the bicycle to start the ride, Empress Zhongsun walked out of the palace. She glanced at the golden chariot and hurriedly went forward to persuade him. Li Er respected and loved Empress Zhongsun. Seeing this scene, he hesitated for a moment and said, "Guanin's servant, I have martial arts. Besides, there's Zhao Song and the others beside me. I'll ride slowly. Don't worry." He was used to riding in the imperial carriage. Suddenly seeing this bicycle that could move quickly with its own strength, he suddenly felt an unbearable itch and wanted to ride it himself. Zhongsun looked at Zhao Song, who was standing at the side with his back bowed, and her heart calmed down. Emperor Zhongsun was still very confident in the strength of this great eunuch who had followed Li Er for more than 20 years. Then your Majesty must be careful." Empress Zhongsun opened her mouth and finally responded, "Don't worry, Guanin's servant." Li Er laughed loudly and then stepped onto the bicycle without hesitation. However, good things didn't last long. Before he had gone 20 feet, the bicycle suddenly swerved to the left. "Your Majesty, Father." Empress Zhongsun and Li Changxian immediately let out a cry of surprise. Zhao Song had already gathered strength in the soles of his feet and was ready to fly over to save him. Bang! Everyone forgot that Li Er also had martial arts skills. Although he hadn't reached the level of a grandmaster, he wasn't far away. Almost at the instant Zhao Song moved, Li Er's left foot had already fiercely stepped on the ground, and the bicycle immediately stabilized. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Li Er was already slightly used to the way the bicycle balanced left and right. He didn't stop and continued to step on the pedals. This time, the bicycle actually started to move forward steadily. Interesting. This bicycle is really interesting. Refreshing. Li Er rode the bicycle and circled the open space in front of the Li Zheng Palace twice. However, no traffic accident occurred. This extreme carefree and feeling of being in control of everything made Li Er laugh uncontrollably. "Father is really amazing. I heard that Qingke couldn't master this bicycle even after half a day of learning. I didn't expect Father to learn it in less than 15 minutes. Li Chengxian stood beside Empress Zhongsun and said with sincere admiration. Empress Zhongsun patted her chest and said, "Chengxian, you should bring this kind of thing in front of your father less in the future. Otherwise, Wei's watching, and the others will say something bad about your father again. Chapter 981. Yes, Mother. In front of Li Zheng Palace, Li Chengqian didn't refute Empress Zhongxuan's words. Huh, Chengqian didn't do anything wrong. Mei Guanyin, why are you so harsh? Li Er stopped the bicycle at the side and walked to Li Chengqian and Empress Zhongxuan's side. Empress Zhongxun rolled her eyes at Li Er. Li Er smiled and said, Mei Guanyin, I just rode the bicycle a few times. You also saw that this bicycle is much more convenient than a carriage. It's light and doesn't require animal power. I believe that not long after, this bicycle will not only become popular among the people, but also the officials in the imperial court might ride it to morning court. Li Er really dared to think, but it wasn't impossible for him to have such thoughts. When China was just founded, there were no public buses or cars. Didn't the government officials and employees rely on bicycles to travel? Why can't the officials of Tang Empire ride bicycles? Emperor Zhongxun was surprised and said, Your Majesty, this bicycle isn't as stable as a carriage. Not everyone can ride it. I'm afraid that very few officials are willing to ride it. Li Er waved his hand and said with a smile, Mei Guanyin, this bicycle isn't difficult to learn. After the officials get used to it, it's not impossible to replace the carriage. At that time, it can also solve the problem of Chang'an streets being congested every morning. Chang'an might be the largest city in the world, but every morning the streets would still be congested. Don't be surprised, there were also traffic jams in the Tang Dynasty, because every morning was the time when the streets were the most crowded. Some went out of the city to work, some went into the city to do business, and some rushed to school. Of course, the ones that directly caused the congestion were the carriages of the officials or rich merchants. These things were huge in size. Once they were side by side, it was easy to cause congestion, which was a waste of time. Li Er thought that once the bicycle replaced the carriage, the congestion would naturally be gone. His idea was very bold, and he wasn't the only one who had this idea. 3 days later, the new workshop of Strange Interest Pavilion produced the first batch of bicycles. There were a total of 40 bicycles. The advantage of the assembly line production model of a large factory was immediately reflected. Qin Manor, Chung Manor, Yuchi Manor, Niu Manor, and Duke Wei Manor send one to each family. Just say that this marquis, as a junior, is showing filial piety to them and thanking them for taking care of the Li family for the past year. In the workshop, Li Zishuan looked at the rows of brand-new bicycles in front of him and instructed Pang Feiji. Yes, Marquis. Although Pang Feiji did not understand, he still bowed and accepted the order. Young master, this, Faubert was a straightforward person. He would say whatever came to his mind. From his point of view, it was not easy to manufacture a bicycle. Li Zishuan had given away 5 taels of silver so easily. No matter how he looked at it, it was a little reckless. Although the 5 families had indeed taken care of the Li Zishuan, logically speaking, Li Zishuan was also very kind to the 5 families. The favors that should be repaid had long been repaid. Without waiting for him to finish, Li Zishuan waved his hand and interrupted, Faubert, you don't have to say anymore. I have my own considerations. It's just a few bicycles. We can't be so short-sighted. Hearing this, Uncle Fu could only swallow the words that were at the tip of his tongue. After thinking for a while, Uncle Fu said, Young master, let's sell the remaining 35 cars at Strange Interest Pavilion. What's the fixed price? Who knew that Li Zishuan would shake his head again and only heard him say, Faubert, the Strange Taste Pavilion will not sell a single one of the remaining bicycles. All of them will be given to the major shareholders of the Yin Huang Chamber of Commerce. According to the shares that they originally bought, the Wang family will get 10 bicycles, Chao Wendong will get 8, Lin Wenyuan, Liao Shifan, and Zhang Jingyang will get 4 each, and the Crown Prince will get 5 each. In the future, when the workshop produces new products, they will be given priority. If there is any surplus, they will be given to the Strange Taste Pavilion. Hearing this, Faubert was shocked. Young master, If we do this, the Strange Taste Pavilion's position in the hearts of the people will drop in the future. The main reason why the Strange Taste Pavilion had become the most popular shop in Chang, and in such a short period of time, was that it could provide novel products that were not available anywhere else. Now, that Li Zishuan wanted to give priority to the new products produced by the workshop to the members of the Chamber of Commerce. This was a bit of a blow to the Strange Taste Pavilion. Li Zishuan had already considered this point. He nodded and said, "You have to give up something to gain something. After all, the Strange Taste Pavilion's influence is limited. We need an alliance with the Chamber of Commerce to sell the workshop's products to the entire Tang Empire. Currently, the Strange Taste Pavilion needs to change its business model. In the future, the workshop and the members of the Chamber of Commerce will all be handed over to Manager Sun of the Strange Taste Pavilion to handle. Furthermore, our workshop's production capacity is gradually increasing, so the Strange Taste Pavilion shortage won't last for long. The overall loss is still within our acceptable range." After hearing this, Faubert couldn't help but admire Li Zishuan's vision of the big picture. His own considerations were still too one-sided. Young master is wise. This old man's thinking was too simple. But how much does young master intend to set the price of the bicycle? Li Zishuan raised 3 fingers and said, "Sell it to the members of the Chamber of Commerce at 300 strings of coins per bicycle. As for the specific price, let them discuss it themselves, but it can't be higher than 400 strings of coins." In the 70s and 80s of China, an ordinary worker's monthly salary was 19 yuan. After working for a year or two, the salary would increase to 20 yuan. At that time, a Forever brand or Phoenix brand bicycle would sell for around 180 yuan. Even if they saved 15 yuan every month, they would still have to save it for a year. According to the salary at that time, a year's total salary would be around 200 yuan. A Phoenix brand bicycle was almost equivalent to an ordinary worker's annual salary. According to the rate of increase in wages, the wages of workers in the 21st century had increased by nearly 230 times compared to the wages of workers in the past. In other words, if the Forever brand or Phoenix brand of bicycles were to be exchanged in the 21st century, the price would be as high as 40,000 yuan. Also, there was one point that couldn't be ignored. That was the iron of this era was much more expensive than the iron of the modern era. Therefore, Li Zishuan's price of 300 strings of coins per bicycle wasn't expensive at all. This was because the cost of a bicycle was about 170 to 180 strings of coins. Faubert wasn't surprised. He nodded and said, "Then this old man will go arrange it." "Good. Also, the workshop needs to hurry up. The demand for bicycles will only increase. This is a blank market, but it's also a market with huge potential. In a while, I will let the Tang Daily start promoting bicycles." Li Zishuan said in a deep voice. "Yes, young master." Chapter 982. Hey, out of the east gate, not going home. Coming to the door, feeling sad. Not having a bucket of rice to store. I still see no hanging clothes on the shelf. Drawing my sword to the east gate, my children cry. Early in the morning, at dawn, Chung Yaojin was humming a tune as he pedaled his bicycle and rode on the streets of Chang. This old man was famous for his loud voice. What was supposed to be a sad Han Dynasty folk song, Journey to the East Gate, was hummed with a festive flavor by him. What talent! Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty established the UFU as a palace music institution and a specialized institution to collect folk songs from the people. Later, the songs created by this institution and the folk songs collected and processed by this institution were gradually called UFU. Yo, it's old Fong. Haha, have you been stuck here for a while? When he reached the crossroads where the 4 neighborhoods of Taiping Square, Tongyi Square, Shana Square, and Tunghua Square faced, Chung Yaojin saw that the road ahead was congested. He had long been accustomed to this, but today he did not take a carriage or ride a horse, so he was not afraid of the traffic jam. At the critical moment, the old guy showed off his riding skills and nimbly bypassed the crowd. Then, he happened to see the Fong family's carriage. Chung Yaojin was suddenly happy and quickly shouted into the carriage. Cheng Jijia? What are you riding? Fang Xianling heard a familiar voice outside the carriage. He opened the curtain and saw Cheng Yaojin and the bicycle he was riding outside the carriage. He asked curiously, I, old Cheng, am riding a bicycle. It seems that there will be a traffic jam ahead for a while. I, old Cheng, will not wait for you. I will go first. After Cheng Yaojin finished speaking, he rode the bicycle and dodged left and right in front of Fang Xuanling's surprised eyes. In the blink of an eye, he was drowned in the crowd ahead. Bicycle? Looking at Cheng Jijia's appearance, it seems that this bicycle relies on its own strength to move forward. The speed is not slow, and the body is light. It looks good, but I wonder where this old guy bought it from. Fang Xianling watched Cheng Yaojin leave. Then he leaned against the carriage and muttered to himself, Old Lu, good morning. Good morning, Old Yin. At the bottom of the stairs in front of Taiji Palace, the civil and military officials who had arrived early were all gathered together in groups of 3 or 4, whispering to each other. However, it was still early, so not many people had come, perhaps only a dozen or so officials. While everyone was talking, Cheng Yaojin strode over from afar and greeted a few acquaintances one by one. Duke of Lu, why are you here so early today? Yin Li's shoulder was patted by Cheng Yaojin and almost fell apart. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Then he turned around and looked at old Cheng. Cheng Yaojin lived in Blessed Virtue Lane, which was the lane furthest to the west of Chang and city. It was quite a distance away from the imperial palace, so every time he came to the morning court session, he would be slightly later than the others. On the other hand, Yin Li lived in Eternal Peace Lane, which was almost at the center of Chang and city. He only needed to pass through a few lanes to reach the imperial palace, so he didn't even need to take a carriage. It could be said that the Yin family's residence was extremely friendly to Yin Li's workplace. That was why Yin Li was so surprised to see Cheng Yaojin come so early today. Old Cheng, recently got a new kind of bicycle. Its speed is very fast, and the body is very agile. It can shuttle through the crowd at will, and it runs much faster than a carriage. That's why I came earlier today than before. Cheng Yaojin laughed proudly. Yes, that's right. He was helping Li Zishuan advertise. Since Li Zishuan was so generous and gave him one of the first batch of bicycles produced by the workshop, how could he not return the favor? One had to know that when it came to high-end things like bicycles, the officials were also one of the main consumers. If he didn't advertise it here, was he going to advertise it among the commoners? Duke of Lu, what kind of bicycle is so magical? After hearing old Cheng's description, Lu Dui became curious and couldn't help but ask. It should be the new bicycle produced by Strange Interest Pavilion, right? I've heard a little about it, but I haven't had the chance to ride it myself. After hearing what Duke of Lu said today, I'll have to give it a try when I go back. Yin Li frowned and thought for a while. Then he suddenly understood. His son, Yin Xiaoning, had always been in Yinshan and had been in contact with a new workshop. How could Yin Li not know about the new bicycle produced by the workshop? Therefore, after thinking for a while, he understood what the new bicycle old Cheng was talking about was. Cheng Yaojin was stunned. Then he laughed and said, that's right. It's a bicycle. Old Yin, with your son's relationship with Xiao Xian, it's not difficult to get a bicycle. This bicycle is really convenient. You must give it a try when you go back. Lu Dui, the Chancellor of the Supreme Court, asked suspiciously, Duke of Lu, is this bicycle really as good as you say? Cheng Yaojin patted his chest and said, How can I lie when I say it? Old Lu, it's okay if you don't believe me. When there are more people riding bicycles, you'll naturally understand the benefits of bicycles. Jijia didn't lie. This old man also rode a bicycle here today, and it was almost a quarter of an hour faster than usual. This bicycle doesn't need animal power, and it can be ridden anywhere. It's extremely convenient. At this time, Niu Jinda also came to Taiji Palace. He laughed and said, You're all here so early. I thought I was the only one who could come so early today. Coincidentally or not, when Niu Jinda had just arrived, Yuqi Jingda had also arrived right behind him. Old Black, you're really shameless. You're behind me, and you still have the face to say that you're early? Cheng Yaojin curled his lips and retorted. Yuchi Jingda said with a dark face, "Humph. I woke up half an hour late today. Or, I would have definitely come earlier than you, lunatic Cheng. Hey, even if you didn't wake up late, you still didn't come earlier than me. I was already here half an hour ago. Old Cheng, have a bicycle." "Ha!" Cheng Yaojin said proudly. Yuchi Jingda was obviously stunned, and he said with a strange expression, "You have a bicycle too?" "Yes." Cheng Yaojin answered subconsciously, then felt that something was wrong. He glared and said, "What do you mean I have one too? Don't tell me you, Old Black, also have a bicycle?" Yuchi Jingda snorted. "Of course." Cheng Yaojin looked unhappy and immediately retorted, "Ha, little Xian, giving you this bicycle is really a waste. You said this bicycle was originally black and you're riding on it. The sky is a little darker, and passers-by can't tell the difference between the bicycle and you. They might even be injured by you. TSK, TSK." This old guy was using different methods to say that Yuchi Jingda was as black as a bicycle. Yuchi Jingda was furious. "Lunatic Cheng, do you want to fight again? Then let's fight. Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Chapter 983. Jijia Jingda. It's so noisy in front of Taiji Palace. What a scandal. Cheng Yaojin and Yuchi Jingda were used to fighting each other. Qin Xiong, who had arrived later, couldn't help but scold them in a low voice. "Hey, second brother, you're here so early too. Did Xiao Xian give you a bicycle too?" Cheng Yaojin said with a rough smile. Qin Xiong nodded and said, This old man tried it yesterday and found that this car is much more convenient than the carriage, so I rode it here this morning. Just now I saw 3 bicycles at the gate of the imperial city. They should belong to Jijia, Jingda, and Jinda, right?" Neo Jinda swept a glance at this pair of old foes in the field and said with a smile, "Haha, it shouldn't be too bad. Looks like Xiao Xian gave each of us a bicycle." Cheng Jijia gave a thumbs up. "Haha, there's nothing to say about this child's ability and character. He's a good junior. Isn't that apothecary?" Yuchi Jingda's eyes were sharp. He saw Li Jing walking towards them from not far away and spoke. Everyone turned their attention to Li Jing. "Huh, apothecary, why are you so late today? Didn't Xiao Xian give you a bicycle? That shouldn't be. In terms of seniority, you're Han Yushi's grandfather." When Li Jing walked over, Cheng Yaojin couldn't wait to ask. He said that he was asking, but this old fellow was actually showing off. Many times, invisible posturing was the most fatal. How could Li Jing not understand Cheng Yaojin's thoughts? But old Cheng was destined to not be able to pretend. Hee. Yesterday, Xiao Xian sent someone to deliver a bicycle to me. It seems to be called a bicycle. Hearing this, the smile on Cheng Yaojin's face froze. Then, apothecary, it didn't ride it over today? Haven't you learned it yet? Li Jing blushed and coughed dryly. That's not it. This bicycle isn't difficult to learn, but it was used by Hongfu these 2 days. I still rode a carriage today. Oh, I see. Cheng Yaojin said with disappointment. Not far away, the other court officials saw that it was so lively here and couldn't help but whisper in groups. What are the dukes talking about? They're laughing so happily. I don't know, but High Duke Liu has always attended court late. Why are you here so early today? I know. It said that the Marquis of Yong and gifted a bicycle to each of the dukes yesterday. They all rode their bicycles here today. That's why they arrived so quickly. Bicycle? What kind of car is this? Why haven't I heard of it before? Hey, it's most likely a new car from Marquis Yong and's workshop. Is this bike really that good? Exactly. No matter how good it is, can it be better than not touching me in the strange interest pavilion? Haha, you can't say that. Both types of cars have their own advantages. It said that this bicycle doesn't need animal power to move. If you want to move, you could just use your feet to move. Moreover, the body of the bicycle is extremely small. As long as a person can pass by, the bicycle can pass by. It's not like a horse carriage. which is abnormally heavy and often causes congestion on the streets. There's such a car in this world? Assistant Minister Wang. How do you know this so clearly? Hee hee. This. A few days ago, when the Marquis of Yong and was riding his bicycle back to Chong, and my wife and I were just about to go to the East Market, so we bumped into him. This is something that I, Wang, saw with my own eyes. Whoa. If this bicycle is really as good as Assistant Minister Wang says, then this Zhang will buy one no matter what. This way, it will be very convenient for me to go to court every day. I wonder how much this bicycle costs. What can I sell it? It should be sold at the Strange Interest Pavilion. But as for the price, I really don't know. But I think it will be much cheaper than not touching me. At the palace, Cheng Yaojin, Niu Jinda, Qin Xiong, and the others were helping Li Zixuan advertise. Li Zixuan had already made arrangements. According to the plan, today was the day that the bicycles would be sold. First of all, the Tang Daily would definitely cooperate. Hey, come take a look. The bicycles are going on sale. Early in the morning, as today's newspaper was put up for sale from the editorial department of Chitu Culture, the people found a piece of breaking news in a prominent position of the newspaper. The peaceful Chong and city was suddenly in an uproar. Really? When will it be sold? What can I sell it? Is it in the Strange Interest Pavilion? I'll start selling it today. But it's not in the Strange Interest Pavilion. Hearing that the bicycles would not be sold at the Strange Interest Pavilion, many people were in disbelief. What? It's not in the Strange Interest Pavilion? How is that possible? The bicycles were created by Marquis Yong. If it's not in the Strange Interest Pavilion, where else can it be? Did you see wrongly? I didn't see wrongly. According to the newspaper, the bicycles from Chichu Pavilion will be officially on sale today. The locations will be Shi City's Craftsman Pavilion, Chao Family's Treasure Pavilion, Lin Family's Qin Yuzhai, Zhang Family's Yuan Xian, Liao Family's Yubao Tang, Feng Family's Kuan Bao Pavilion, Lin Family's Wuzong Zhai, and Wang Family's Jubao Zhai. Craftsman Pavilion, Treasure Pavilion, Elegant Pavilion, Jade Treasure Hall? Why these shops? What about the Strange Interest Pavilion? Why isn't there any Strange Interest Pavilion? Hey, how would I know? How can we, the common people, understand Marquis Yong's thoughts? Then, how much is the price of this bicycle? 400 strings of coins, and the quantity is limited. 400 strings of coins? It's not that expensive. It's cheaper than a normal horse carriage. But these shops probably don't have that much stock. We might not be able to get it. Sigh. I thought it would be sold at the Strange Interest Pavilion. I still have a purple membership card there. This sentence struck a chord in many people's hearts. One must know that the Strange Interest Pavilion now had a very large number of members. There were many people who wanted to use their membership cards to get the bicycles. Yeah, I also have a purple membership card at the Strange Interest Pavilion. I thought I could use this to get the upper hand. Looks like I'll be happy for nothing. Hey. The newspaper also says that the Strange Interest Pavilion membership cards that were sold previously have been renamed to Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce membership cards. Members of all ranks will enjoy the same treatment in the shops above, but all members will have to pay membership fees to the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce every year. From now on, there will only be Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce membership cards. Wow, Marquis is awesome. Damn. Why didn't you say so earlier? Tong, quick, bring the horse over. This young master wants to go to Shi City to buy a bicycle. Brother Zhang, wait. I'll go with you. After hearing Li Zixuan's decision, those who had Strange Interest Pavilion membership cards immediately rushed to Shi City. Chapter 984. Master, back then, we sold off our other businesses and used everything we had to get 45,000 strings of cash to become the first member of the Yanwang Chamber of Commerce. But now we only have 4 bicycles, and one of them was given to Xiao Hao. Even if we can earn 100 strings of cash per bicycle, for bicycles we'll only earn 400 strings of cash. Isn't it a bit of a loss for us to buy this membership? West City, Lin Family's Qingya Zhai, 2nd floor. A well-dressed madam stood beside Lin Wenyuan and said worriedly. Lin Wenyuan was unmoved and said with a smile, "Madam, You have to look at the long term when doing business. Our Lin family was just a nobody in Chang'an before, but after this incident, we became one of the 7 largest bicycle suppliers in the Tang Empire. Soon, we will be famous all over the world. With fame, do you have to worry about not being able to make money? Madam, you also said that we can earn 100 strings of cash per bicycle. So 100 bicycles will be 10,000 strings of cash, and 1,000 bicycles will be 100,000 strings of cash. Where else can we find such a good business? Madam Lin rolled her eyes at Lin Wenyuan and said unhappily, "How can I not know this? But with the ability of the Curious Pavilion's workshop, when will they be able to give us so many bicycles?" Lin Wenyuan frowned and then relaxed. "Madam, don't underestimate Marquis's workshop. This time, the workshop produced a total of 40 bicycles. Marquis gave 1 to each of the 5 Grand Dukes, and the remaining 35 were all given to us. The Curious Pavilion did not get a single one. From this, we can see that Marquis values the membership of the Chamber of Commerce. This also shows that Marquis has big plans, and it is not just limited to Chang'an. In the next few years, bicycles will be sold to all the provinces and counties in the Tang Empire. How big of a business would this be? We spent 40,000 strings of cash to buy this membership, and we will definitely make a profit." Madam Lin thought for a moment and said, "I don't care about this anymore. No matter what, Master is right. I'm going back. Xiao Hao got the bicycle. Don't mess around at home and hurt yourself." Lin Wenyuan said crossly, "Madam, if you have the time to worry about that stinking brat, why don't you find a way to find him a master of mathematics? No matter what, you have to let him try for the Yinhuang College entrance exam next year. If he can pass, this old man will have no more desires in this life." Although under normal circumstances, the sons of businessmen could not participate in the imperial examinations, nor could they become officials in the imperial court, he had never expected his son to become an official. He only hoped that his son could learn some knowledge in Yinhuang College so that he could inherit the family business in the future. Madam Lin rolled her eyes at her husband again. "Master, don't you know what kind of nature our family's Xiao Hao has? It's fine if you want him to lie down and read novels, but aren't you making things difficult for him by asking him to read books to get into Yinhuang College?" Lin Wenyuan said with a dark face, "That stinking brat has been spoiled by you, madam. Our family business is so big, and we still have to pass it to him in the future. But look at him now, eating, sleeping, and reading novels all day, and occasionally going out to walk the dog. He's so old, and he can't even understand an account book. When the family business is handed to him in the future, when we leave, won't he lose all the family business and starve to death?" Madam Lin sighed. She opened her mouth and tried to persuade. "Master, our family's Xiao Hao is still young." "What young?" "He's 14 this year." "What was Marquis doing when he was 14? What was he doing?" "I say, madam, you can't continue to spoil him like this. You're harming him," Lin Wenyuan advised with a serious expression. Madam Lin thought for a moment and finally nodded. "Yes, master. I'll help Xiao Hao find a master soon." After saying that, Madam Lin turned around and went downstairs. However, she was shocked by the bustling scene at the entrance of the shop. "I have the strange interest pavilion. Oh no, I have the purple membership card of the Yinhuang Chamber of Commerce. I want to cut the queue. I want to buy a bicycle." "You think you're so great because you have a purple membership card? I have one too, and it's also purple. What right do you have to stand in front of me? Hey, get out of the way. My family's young master has the Red Supreme membership card. All of you get out of the way." "Wow, Red Supreme membership card?" Madam Lin couldn't help but be stunned. She knew that the elegant pavilion only had 3 bicycles, but there were hundreds of people queuing up in front of her. Basically, everyone had a membership card of the Yinhuang Chamber of Commerce, and most of them were too embarrassed to take out their purple membership cards. This meant that they were all rich people in Chang'an City. Maybe Master's decision is right. As long as Marquis gives us enough goods, our Lin family can definitely become rich with this membership of the Chamber of Commerce. Madam Lin muttered to herself. Actually, there weren't many people in the elegant pavilion, but there were many people in Chang'an City who knew the inside information. They all ran to the Chow family's appraisal pavilion to queue up. That was because they had the most bicycles with a total of 8 bicycles, which was the most in Chang'an City. Actually, the Wang family's treasure house should have the most bicycles, with 10 of them. But for some reason, the Wang family's treasure house was not open today. It was probably because the Wang family didn't want to expand their market in Chang'an City. Boss Chow, I have my Master's Red Supreme membership card, and I'm the first one here. No matter what, I have to get a bicycle today, right? Hee hee. Of course. Little brother, please go in and hand over your bicycles. Someone will deliver them to you. Chow Wendong said with a smile when he saw the young man in front of the queue holding the red membership card of the strange interest pavilion. Thank you, Boss Chow. After a while, the young man came out of Chow Wendong's appraisal pavilion, pushing a brand new bicycle with a smile on his face. Wow, so this is a bicycle. It looks so cool. Tis TSK. Selling this bicycle for 400 strings of coins isn't expensive at all. I heard that a bicycle doesn't require animal power. Don't tell me you only need to step on the pedals on the plate. That's right. The last time I saw the Duke of Yong, and he rode it like this. Hey, I wonder if it'll be my turn. I just happened to be ranked 8th. If I had known earlier, I would have bought a Red Supreme membership card. The young man who received the bicycle left proudly under the envious gazes and exclamations of the crowd. The people behind him went into the queue to pay for their bicycles. After the 7th person received his bicycle, Chow Xiaodong came out and clasped his hands to the crowd. He said apologetically, "Dear friends, I'm really sorry. All the bicycles in the appraisal pavilion are sold out today. Please come back another day. I'm really sorry." Hearing his words, the people in the queue couldn't stand it anymore. "No, Boss Chow, you've only sold a few bicycles. How could they be sold out already?" "Yeah, I heard that your shop has 8 bicycles today. Where's the last one? Hurry up and give it to me." Chow Wendong smiled bitterly and said, "I'm really sorry. There were 8 bicycles originally, but I gave one to my son. Please come back another day when you have more bicycles." Chapter 985. The Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality. Chapter 173. The Third Extreme Mountain. Han Li thought happily in his heart and clenched his other hand. After a sharp sound, countless golden threads appeared out of thin air, circled around his fist for a while, and then disappeared in a flash. At the same time, the sound of thunder and firecrackers sounded in Han Li's body, and a force much stronger than before surged out from all parts of his meridians. South of Chang'an City and Lu House, Lin family's backyard. At this time, the whole courtyard was bathed in sunlight. A young man in brocade clothes was lying on a soft couch, basking in the sun. The young man was a little fat, especially his round belly, which looked particularly conspicuous. The young man was very good at enjoying himself. A maid was serving him tea. Another maid was massaging his shoulders. Another maid was massaging his legs. And another maid was standing next to him reading the latest issue of the Tang dailies, The Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality. In terms of enjoyment, perhaps even Li Zishuan couldn't compare with this young man. The action of breaking through the bottleneck of the great vehicle stage is naturally far from comparable to the previous bottlenecks of the void refinement and combination stage. The explosion of the world's essence chi during the breakthrough is enough to destroy the world. So naturally, it can't directly trigger the great vehicle stage tribulation in the secret room. After a decisive expression flashed across Han Li's face, he immediately stood up and walked towards the stone door with large strides. "Young master, that is all." Time passed slowly, and in 15 minutes, the little maid finished reading the Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality. The young man opened his eyes and said lazily, Finished so soon?" "Yes, young master." The young man sighed and said, "Tisk tisk, it's already more than 2,100 chapters. The Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality should be finished soon, right?" The little maid who was reading the book earlier said, "Young master, the scholars outside are saying that the Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality is too long and too simple, and there is no literary talent at all. Why do you still like to read it so much?" The young man said disdainfully, "Tis K. I like to read this kind of novel. What can they do? This young master can't even get used to reading their novels. Hey, actually, those pedantic scholars just don't like the fact that Leather Knight made so much money from a mortal's journey to immortality. Just ignore them. If they have the ability, they can write a novel that is comparable to a mortal's journey to immortality, and then come out and criticize it." Yes, that's right. There were already novels in the Tang Dynasty, and there were quite a number of them. The history of the development of China's ancient novels was as follows. Before the Song Dynasty, the classical short stories developed in a single line. During the Song and Yuan dynasties, classical short stories and vernacular short stories developed in a double line. Since the Ming Dynasty, classical short stories, vernacular long stories, and short stories developed in multiple lines, showing a colorful state. The Wei, Jin, Southern, and Northern dynasties could be called childhood in ancient novels. At this time, there were also Ji Run and Ji Guai novels, which are collectively called notebook novels. During this period, our country's novels were beginning to take shape, but these novels were not mature enough in terms of art. They were only rough sketches, and the characters they described could not be written with a complete image. Most of the stories they wrote were factual in nature and lacked artistic fiction. The authors were just collecting anecdotes, not consciously creating novels. Compared to a mortal's journey to immortality, the novels of that period could only be described as simple. A novel would be considered long if it had 30,000 to 40,000 words. The Tang Dynasty could be said to be the mature period of ancient novels. The Tang Dynasty produced legends of the Tang Dynasty. The appearance of legends of the Tang Dynasty marked the maturity of our country's classical novels. Compared to the works of childhood, the novels of the Tang Dynasty had made great progress. They consciously wrote novels from ghosts and gods and from anecdotes to real life, creating and improving a lot in terms of art. The famous legends of the Tang Dynasty included Jiang Fang's Hui Xiaoyu, Yuan Zhen's Ying, Chao Wei's Lu Yi, and by Xing Zhan's Li Hua. However, the novels mentioned above did not appear in the early Tang Dynasty. Most of the popular novels in the early years of Zhenguan were written during the Wei, Jin, and Northern and Southern dynasties. It was because of this historical background that the novel A Mortal's Journey to Immortality, which had a grand worldview, rich characters, and fast-paced plot, quickly attracted a large number of loyal readers when it was published. Those who complained that A Mortal's Journey to Immortality had no literary talent and no substance, who knew how many of them secretly read it. The young maidservant covered her mouth and laughed softly. Hee hee. If those scholars heard what young master said, they would be furious. The young man said disdainfully, "It's none of my business whether they are furious or not." "All right, didn't I ask my father for a bicycle?" Shao Qin quickly asked Bao Shun to push it over. It turned out that this young man was Lin Wenyuan's son, Lin Hao. He could be considered as a rich second-generation heir. The maidservant, Shao Qin, nodded and said, "Yes. Young master wants to ride a bicycle? That's great." The rest of the maidservants were also excited. Recently, the news about bicycles in Chong, and it spread like wildfire. They also wanted to see what a bicycle looked like. Fortunately, their master had snatched the first delivery rights of a bicycle. Their young master was the first to have a bicycle. As servants, they would be able to follow along and broaden their horizons. Unexpectedly, Lin Hao sat up from the pedals and knocked on the maidservant's head, saying, "You wicked girl, how can you let your young master do this kind of physical work personally? Of course, I will let Bao Shun ride it later. Shao Qin, you have been with me for so long for nothing." Young master." The maidservant, Shao Qin, widened her eyes. She was thinking, young master, you let someone else ride the bicycle, then where's the fun in that? If this girl had transmigrated from the modern world, she would definitely not have such doubts, because she would understand that there was a type of bicycle called cloud riding. In the modern world, there was a group of people called otakus. Usually, they didn't want to make friends or fall in love, so they would do it through the internet cloud. If they didn't want to travel, They would use Google Earth or a game with a more outstanding style, such as the best car, Grand Theft Auto, to travel the world's famous rivers and mountains. However, Li Zixuan probably didn't expect that there would be such a real otaku like Lin Hao in the Tang Dynasty. What? Hurry up and go. Lin Hao reprimanded, then lay down again. Oh. The maidservant responded and hurriedly went to pass down the instructions. A short while later, a very spirited young man in green pushed a bicycle over. Without waiting for him to bow, Lin Hao got up and said excitedly, "Ha! Bao Shun, come and ride this bicycle. Don't worry, if you fall and hurt yourself, I will pay for your medical expenses." Chapter 986. Hey, Bao Shun, press on the left handlebar. The bike is going to fall. F*CK. You better be careful. I only have this damn bike. If you break it, I won't be able to buy it even if I have money. Stupid. You don't even know how to ride a bike. Are you a piece of trash? Ha! Xiao Qin. Luckily I'm smart and didn't ride it myself. Otherwise, wouldn't I be like this idiot Bao Shun and have shit all over my body? Yes. Steady. Just ride it like this. Ha! Circle it twice in this courtyard for me. Yes. Awesome. Really damn awesome. Bao Shun, throw away one hand and see if you can ride it with only one hand. Wow. Amazing. It really works. Let's see. In the backyard of the Lin family, under the instigation of Lin Hao, the servant Bao Shun began his journey of learning how to ride a bicycle. At first, because he was not used to riding a two-wheel bicycle, this unlucky child fell down many times and was scolded many times. In the end, he was finally able to ride steadily. Looking at him riding the bike in the breeze, Lin Hao sat on the couch with a face of enjoyment, as if he was the one riding the bike. He really used the concept of riding in the clouds to the extreme, making the scalps of the four maidservants tingle. Cough. While they were laughing and chatting, a cold cough suddenly came from the side. Madam, the four little maidservants were the first to react from the joy brought to them by the bicycle. They bowed and said, it was Lin Wenyuan's wife who had returned from Shi City. Ha! Mother is back. Mother, come and sit. Xiaohua, the weather is so cold. Quickly pour a cup of hot water for my mother. Lin Hao noticed the movement beside him, turned around, and hurriedly stood up with a smile. Yes, young master. The maidservant who helped massage Lin Hao's legs before went to carry out the order. A trace of warmth flashed through Madame Lin's eyes, and she swallowed the words of reprimand that were about to come out of her mouth. This young man in front of her was indeed a little ignorant and incompetent, but no matter what, he was still born from her 10 months of pregnancy. Xiao Hao, this bicycle was obtained by your father with great difficulty. How can you let a servant ride it? What if it breaks? Mrs. Lin patted her son's hand and motioned for him to sit down. Then she sat down beside him and said, before today, she might have thought that a bicycle was nothing. It was only a few hundred strings of coins, and the Lin family could still afford it. But today in Shi City, when she saw hundreds and thousands of people queuing up just to grab a few bicycles, she finally understood how precious bicycles were. Even if you had money, you might not be able to buy one. Wasn't the reason why the Lin family had it because they were members of the Chamber of Commerce? After Lin Hao heard his mother's words, he smiled and said, Mother, this bicycle is so dangerous to ride. If I try to ride it, I might fall and hurt myself. When that happens, you will definitely be heartbroken. That's why I let Bao Shun ride first. When Mrs. Lin heard this, she also felt that it was reasonable. She dropped the topic and changed the topic. Xiao Hao, have you finished the homework that Mr. Yichuan left for you? This Mr. Yichuan, whose surname was Wang, was a famous scholar in Wanyan County of Cheng. In the previous dynasty, he was a scholar. After the Sui Dynasty destroyed the Tang Dynasty, although he didn't participate in the imperial examinations again, he was still very famous in Wanyan County. Lin Wenyuan had spent a lot of money and pulled a lot of strings to finally invite this old man to teach Lin Hao one day every 10 days. Lin Hao's face was full of resentment and said, Mother, that old man looks down on us from the bottom of his heart. Why should I do the homework that he left for me? We don't owe him anything. Well, why does he have to look down on us? If it weren't for you and Father stopping me, I would have already gotten someone to beat him up. How dare you? Lin Mu glared at her son. Then, she said to the maids and servants around her, all of you leave. If anyone dares to say what Hao said just now, I'll tear his mouth apart. The servants were shocked and hurriedly said, Yes, madam. After they all left, Mrs. Lin looked at Lin Hao and said earnestly, Xiao Hao, I know that Mr. Yuchuan looks down on us, but I don't blame him. Since ancient times, scholars, farmers, workers, and merchants, our Lin family has been doing business for generations. Although we don't have to worry about food and clothing, in the eyes of scholars, we are destined to be inferior. This is something that no one can change. Your father invited Mr. Yuchuan to teach you poetry, but he didn't expect you to participate in the imperial examinations and pass the imperial examinations. He only hoped that you can be reasonable and have a clear mind so that you can inherit the family business he created for you. After all, the children of merchants can't enter the imperial court and become officials. Lin Hao immediately said, unconvinced, Mother, isn't Marquis Yong and from a merchant family? Isn't he a noble marquis now? Mrs. Li patted her son's arm and said unhappily, Marquis Yong and is a special case. He has an immortal master and has a lot of skills. How can we, mere mortals, compare to him? But mother, I heard that Marquis Yong and Yinhuang College didn't forbid the children of merchants from entering. After those students leave school, can't they use the skills they learned in Yinhuang College to enter the imperial court and become officials? Lin Hao frowned and said. At this moment, Mrs. Lin's eyes revealed an imperceptible smile. She said softly, That's hard to say. However, if they can enter Yinhuang College, even if they can't learn 50% of Marquis Yong and skills, they should be able to learn 10% or 20%. Just based on this 10% or 20% of skills, they are people with great prospects. Let's not talk about anything else. Just the fact that Marquis Yong and is willing to give the children of merchants this opportunity to enter the imperial court is worthy of our gratitude. It was rare that Lin Hao didn't refute. He nodded and said, In Marquis Yong, and is indeed different from others. He is an interesting person. Mrs. Lin immediately smiled and said, Then little Hao, have you thought of going to Yinhuang College to study? In another half a year, Yinhuang College will hold another entrance exam. Do you want to try? Who knows, it might be more interesting than home. When Lin Hao heard this, his head shook like a rattled drum. No, mother. With this bit of knowledge in my stomach, how can I enter Yinhuang College? You should give up on this idea as soon as possible. Mrs. Lin said in a deep voice, Little Hao, how do you know you can if you haven't tried? There are still 9 months until next year's entrance exam. Mother heard people say that there is a 7 or 8-year-old foolish child in the Han village who only studied for 2 months and got in. Mother knows that you aren't stupid. You are just lazy. If you're determined to enter Yinhuang College now, Mother believes that you will be able to get in next year. Chapter 987. Mother, how can Yinhuang College be more interesting than home? Ahem. What I mean is, I just want to stay at home and be filial to you and Father. I don't want to go anywhere. In the backyard of the Lin family, Lin Hao's expression changed when he heard that his mother wanted him to go to Yinhuang College. He stayed at home every day to sunbathe, listen to novels, and play with the servant girls. He was so free and unfettered. Why would he bother to study late at night and prepare for Yinhuang College's entrance exam? Wasn't this just looking for trouble for himself? Mother Lin frowned and relaxed after a while. She said, Little Hao, you can't say that. You haven't been to Yinhuang College. How would you know that Yinhuang College isn't as interesting as home? Besides, your father and mother are still healthy. Why would we need you to stay at home? A good man should aim to travel far. What's wrong with staying at home all day? Lin Hao pinched his chin and remained unmoved. Mother Lin saw this and said, Little Hao, Mother heard that the college has some kind of telescope that can see the moon far away from us. This thing is a heavenly observation tool made by the college. It can see the stars in the 9 heavens. It's a divine tool. What? Yinhuang College has such an awesome thing? Why didn't I know about it? When Lin Hao heard this, his eyes widened. From his mother's words, he seemed to have discovered something even more interesting. Logically speaking, listening to novels at home and teasing the maidservants was definitely not as interesting as using a telescope to look at the sky. The sky. Since ancient times, the mysterious sky had always been something people yearned for. Because of this, many ancient myths and legends have been passed down. Although Lin Hao was a fat otaku, he couldn't resist this temptation. Seeing that there was hope, Mother Lin smiled and said, "Silly child, why would Mother lie to you? Actually, ordinary people don't know about this yet. But your father is a member of the Marquis Yong and Marquis Chamber of Commerce, so he knows about this. Mother has told you, but you can't casually tell outsiders. Otherwise, your father will be harmed by you." Lin Hao was still in shock from seeing the sky through a telescope. He subconsciously nodded. Mother, don't worry, I won't speak carelessly." Lin's mother smiled and said, "Then, Xiao Hao, are you willing to go to Yinhuang College now?" Lin Hao looked hesitant and frowned. When Mama Lin saw this, she smiled and said, "Then I'll help you find a new mathematics teacher to tutor you. With my son's intelligence, it won't be a problem for you to get into Yinhuang College in 9 months." Bicycles were sold out on the first day, but people's enthusiasm for bicycles did not diminish at all. Instead, it became more and more intense. Bicyclists began to appear on the streets of Chang and city. The convenience, magic, and speed of bicycles began to be known by more and more people. The tycoons of Chang were all eager to make a move. They waved their banknotes, or rather, copper coins, wanted to buy bicycles. However, the 7 first-run stores of bicycles announced on Tang Daily were all out of stock. They were still out of stock the next day, and still out of stock on the 3rd day. In a short period of time, bicycles became something that was truly priceless. It was rumored that there were already people who offered a high price of 800 strings of cash, hoping to buy a bicycle. "Shopkeeper's son, do you have any bicycles at Curious Pavilion? I'm willing to pay more." "Yes." "Shopkeeper's son, the price is negotiable. Do you have any bicycles here?" Some people who were looking for bicycles to no avail finally came to Curious Pavilion. They asked Sun Huayuan one after another. Sun Huayuan could only smile bitterly. "Dear customers, it's not that I don't want to sell you bicycles, but Curious Pavilion really is out of stock." "No, Mr. Sunday. In the past, all the new gadgets produced by the Strange Taste Pavilion were sold in the Strange Taste Pavilion. Why is there no stock this time?" "That's right. Why are Curious Pavilion's bicycles all distributed to other stores this time?" Many people were deeply surprised that Curious Pavilion wasn't part of the first batch of bicycles. Sun Huayuan explained, "This was arranged by my family's marquis. The purpose is to disperse the customers and make it easier for everyone to buy. Actually, as far as I know, Curious Pavilion's 2 workshops are currently producing bicycles. I believe that the second batch of bicycles will be on sale soon. Everyone, please be patient." Hearing Sun Huayuan's words, although the crowd was unwilling, they could only go back and wait for the news. Although Li Zixuan had heard about these things, he didn't care much about it. Because the workshops were all following procedures, it was useless for him to worry about it. He still had other things to do. "Mr. Yin, have the exam questions for each subject been released?" In Yinhuang College, Li Zixuan asked in a low voice in Yin Sila's office. "Yes, that's right." Yinhuang College's first monthly exam was about to be held. Due to the late start of the semester and the military training in the first month of the semester, the real time of classes in the first semester was only 2 months. After the monthly exam, the next big exam would be the final exam, and then it would be the winter vacation. Yin Silu pointed to the 5 craft paper bags on the table and smiled. "Yes, it's all ready. Yamacho, do you want to take a look at it yourself?" Li Zixuan thought for a moment and nodded. "Yes, I'll take it back to have a look later. The exam rooms should have been allocated, right?" Yin Silu replied, "It's all arranged. Every seat has an exam number, and the other teaching rooms in the teaching building have all been opened. Each teaching room will only seat 20 people, and the allocation of exam rooms will be messed up. It should be able to prevent the students from plagiarizing. Li Zixuan had used the modern exam system as a reference for the allocation of exam rooms. Li Zixuan would learn from modern systems whenever he could. He wasn't polite at all. Well, if that's the case, I'm relieved. Li Zixuan nodded. He had been in Chang'an City for a few days because of his personal affairs, so he was a little negligent in the management of the college. However, the current leadership of Yinhuang College had begun to take shape. Even if he wasn't in the college for a short time, the operation of the college wouldn't be in trouble. Inform the head teachers of each class to emphasize the discipline of the exam room to the students. Those who cheat will have their grades nullified or be expelled directly. So I don't want to see any students cheating. No teacher wanted their students to cheat in the exam, and Li Zixuan was no exception. Yes, Yamacho, don't worry. I'll explain it to them clearly. Yin Silu stroked his beard and responded. Li Zixuan learned about the recent situation of the college, and then took the exam papers to the other courtyard. Yesterday, he had already brought his wife back to the side courtyard to stay. Chapter 988. Li Zixuan took the test papers home and skimmed through them. The next day, he sent them back to the college. This time, Li Zixuan didn't mess around with the test papers. Overall, the difficulty of the questions was only average. There weren't any weird questions, and it tested the students' foundations. Li Zixuan didn't make any changes because there was no need to make weird questions to make things difficult for the students every time. Hey, Chonyo, Zifan, Baolin, do you guys want to play football after school? Yinhuang College, Guanghua Building, Class 1, Li Tai stood up and asked a few people who often played football with him during the break. Now, football had become a part of the students' lives. Li Tai did not like sports in the past, but ever since he successfully lost weight during the military training, football came out of nowhere. He began to be infatuated with this hot-blooded sport. Basically, he would find some friends to play football on the field every few days. F***CK. The monthly test is tomorrow, and you're still in the mood to play football? You're not treating us students with bad grades as human beings. Ching Chumo immediately said indignantly. Oh, Chingke, I won't play football with you tonight. I still have to review my homework. Yuchi Bao Lin stood up and scratched his head with a silly smile. Li Tai pursed his lips and said unconcernedly, Isn't it just a monthly test? Is it necessary? You've already learned what you need to learn. It's too late for you to learn what you haven't learned. Why don't you play football and relax? Who knows, maybe you'll get better results. Chung Chumo rolled his eyes and said, Chinke, it's easy for you to say that. It doesn't matter if your grades are good, you can play blindly. But Bao Lin and I are different. We'll take advantage of this time to learn as much as we can. Hey, Chinke, don't you want to be first in this monthly test? Li Tai shook his head without hesitation and said, Let's leave it to fate. If I get it, it's my fortune. If I don't, it's my fate. Why force it? Chung Chumo laughed. This guy suddenly said sarcastically, Yo, I haven't seen you for a few days, and you've already become desireless? Could it be that you want to become a monk and practice Buddhism? Li Tai laughed and scolded, F***CKU, you're the one who wants to be a monk. Hee. In my opinion, Cyan Sparrow no longer has the motivation to fight for first place. Otherwise, with Qin K's personality, she will definitely not give up until she gets first place. Seeing this, Sun Zifan smiled and revealed the truth. The truth was indeed as he said. If it had been a month ago, Li Tai would have been very concerned about the ranking of this monthly exam. At that time, Li Zixuan had said that football could only be obtained by passing the top 3 of the monthly exam. It cannot be bought anywhere else even if one had the money. But later, Li Tai did not know why Li Zixuan went back on his word and actually took out a large number of footballs to sell. For Li Tai, anything that could be solved with money was not a problem. Since he could buy football with money, why would he work so hard for the monthly exam? The monthly exam was just a small test in the learning process. It was not worth his attention. Hence, his very Buddha-like answer just now. Li Tai was seen through, but his expression did not change as he said, After the exam, I'll treat you to a meal at a small shop to celebrate. How about that? That's fine with me. Then are you two going to play football in the afternoon? No. F***CK. What about you, Ziffin? Son Ziffin shook his head and said, Cyan Sparrow, I'm not going either. The weather today is not good. Li Tai had no choice but to find someone else. The next day, Yenwang College's first monthly exam officially kicked off. As the college bell and drum rang 3 times in a row, the invigilators in the 32 examination halls began to distribute the exam papers at the same time. The teachers of the college's inspection team also started to patrol the examination halls one by one to prevent students from cheating in the exam. In fact, in terms of invigilation, Yenhuang College's monthly exam was almost as strict as the Tang Empire's imperial examination. This was also because Li Zishuan wanted to do his best to create a fair learning and competitive environment for the students. That was why he paid so much attention to the examination hall's discipline. There were a total of 5 subjects in this monthly exam. Among them, classics and geography were combined. On the first day, they would be tested on mathematics in the morning. The difficulty of the first exam was maxed out. In the afternoon, they would be tested on physics. On the second day, they would be tested on chemistry. In the afternoon, they would be tested on classics and geography in the afternoon. After the exams, they would have a holiday because tomorrow was Friday. The monthly exams mathematics paper was set by Su Hongji. He had worked with Li Zishuan in the mathematics school for a period of time. He had learned a few points from Li Zishuan's craftiness in setting the questions. In the beginning of the mathematics paper, most of the questions relied on some basic questions related to the knowledge points in books. These questions were not difficult, but they were not easy either. Only those who had a thorough understanding of the knowledge points could get them all correct. However, for the last question, Su Hongji prepared a surprise for the students. Let's say there is a pond with an infinite amount of water. There are 2 empty water bottles with a capacity of 5 liters and 6 liters respectively. Deduce how to use these 2 bottles to obtain 3 liters of water from the pond. This was a logical deduction question related to mathematics. Compared to the previous questions, this question was undoubtedly more flexible because it did not test a certain knowledge point in books. It tested one's reasoning ability. This question was worth a total of 15 points, so no one took the initiative to give up on this question. Each and every one of them racked their brains and calculated the answer on the draft paper. Meng Wenhao, who was sitting in exam room 16, thought for about half an hour before he finally started writing. First, fill the 6-liter bottle. Then, pour into the 5-liter bottle. There is 1 liter left in the 6-liter bottle. Then, empty the 5-liter bottle. Pour the remaining 1 liter of water from the 6-liter bottle into the 5-liter bottle. Then, fill the 6-liter bottle with water. Pour it into the 5-liter bottle until it is full. Pour in 4 liters of water, leaving 2 liters of water. Finally, empty the 5-liter bottle. Pour the remaining 2 liters of water from the 6-liter bottle into the 5-liter bottle. Then, the 5-liter bottle will have 3 liters of space left. Fill the 6-liter bottle with water. Then, pour into the 5-liter bottle until it is full. Pour in 3 liters of water, leaving 3 liters of water in the 6-liter bottle. After he finished writing, Meng Wenhao shook his head and thought to himself, this question is quite interesting. It seems that Mr. Su's problem-setting skills are gradually approaching that of Yamacho. If Meng Wenhao could solve this question, how could Li Tai, who was in exam room 1, not be able to do it? He only thought for half an hour before he came up with an answer. Moreover, it was a different answer. First, fill the 5-liter bottle. Then, pour in the 6-liter bottle. Then, fill the 5-liter bottle. Pour in the 6-liter bottle. Then, there will be 4 liters of water left in the 5-liter bottle. Then, empty the 6-liter bottle. Pour in the 4-liter bottle from the 5-liter bottle. Then, there will be 4 liters of water left in the 6-liter bottle. Finally, fill the 5-liter bottle with water. Then, fill the 6-liter bottle with water from the 5-liter bottle. Then, there will be 3 liters of water left in the 5-liter bottle. After he finished writing, Li Tai nodded with satisfaction and whispered, in the past, Yamacho came up with a question about putting water in the pool. Now, Mr. Su came up with a question about getting water from the pool. This is really interesting. Chapter 989. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon of the next day, the last exam of Yanhuang College's first monthly exam was over. After going through 2 days of high-intensity exams, the students were all physically and mentally exhausted. After handing in their papers, no matter if they did well or not, they all couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. "Hey, Chinke, didn't you say yesterday that you'd treat us to a drink after the exam? Let's go now." After the students in the exam room returned to their respective classrooms, Chung Chumo patted Li Tai's shoulder and winked. Li Tai said unhappily, "F***, you guys weren't loyal yesterday and didn't accompany me to play football. Today, you want to drink with me? No way." He did say yesterday that he'd treat them to a meal, but there was a prerequisite. Chung Chumo took advantage of the situation and said, "Hee, Chinke, Chitsu culture is flourishing. Now that you receive dividends every month, you won't be so stingy as to not be willing to treat us to a drink, right?" He knew better than anyone that Li Tai didn't lack money at all because Li Tai had shares in Chitsu culture. Then again, Li Zishuan's family was fattened up by Li Zishuan. If Li Zishuan didn't return to Chang, and this year, Li Er might still be living a tight life. Li Chengxian and Li Tai might still be by Li Er's side fighting for favor. Now, history was changing little by little. "Hee, that's right. Chinke, you're the richest among us. It's not too much to treat us brothers to a drink, right?" Sun Zifan also chimed in. "Oh, Chinke, if you want to treat us to a drink, count me in." Yuchi Baolin just walked into the classroom and didn't know what was going on, so he ran over to join the fun. Li Tai almost vomited blood. He thought about it, and finally said helplessly, Okay. Pack up. Let's go to Xiaomao's, a small shop, for a meal tonight. I'm really scared of you bad friends." Ever since Gu Xiaomao's have a small shop opened, it became extremely popular in Yanhuang College. In the beginning, his family's supermarket had given the academy students a huge surprise. In this era, people would go to the rice shop to buy rice, to the market to buy shoes, to the grocery store to buy pots and pans, to the rain gear store to buy umbrellas, and to the snack stalls in the eastern and western markets to buy snacks. However, once Gu Xiaomao's store was opened, the students discovered that shopping had suddenly become very simple. Food, drinks, and necessities could basically be bought from his store. Moreover, they had to choose what they wanted to buy. After choosing, they just had to pay the bill at the counter at the entrance. This kind of novel shopping method also made the students feel very refreshed. When they had nothing to do, they would often come in groups of 3 to 5 to shop at the supermarket. Other than the supermarket, there was also a small shop that provided gourmet service. This was also a campus restaurant. There was a row of sheds outside the store. Under the sheds, there were tables and chairs. The store mainly served noodles or small dishes. The person who cooked was usually Old Man Gu. Sometimes, when Old Man Gu couldn't free himself, Gu Xiaomao's sister, Gu Yunshuang, would come out to cook. Xiaomao, today we're here to take care of your business." Li Tai brought a group of people out of Guanghua building. After a short while, they arrived at a small shop. He shouted at Gu Xiaomao, who was chopping firewood in front of the store. Behind him were Chung Chumo, Yuchi Baolin, Qin Huayu, Li Huiran, Li Ku, Zhang Sun Chong, and Sun Zifan. They were all a group of second-generation officials. "Your Highness," Gu Xiaomao was shocked. He quickly put down the work in his hands and hurriedly greeted him. Although the ordinary students of Yanhuang College often came here to shop at the supermarket, Li Tai rarely came here. This was because the little fatty basically didn't lack anything in daily life. Every weekend, there would be servants who would come over to help him replenish his goods. The little fatty was either studying or running off to play football. Naturally, he rarely came to the supermarket. "Screw you. How many times have I told you not to call me Your Highness? Just call me Chinke. You just don't listen. Do you believe that I won't beat you up next time?" Li Tai walked over and punched Gu Xiaomao's chest as he jokingly scolded him. When Yanhuang College was being built, one of them was the captain of the 8th team of the 1st Regiment, while the other was the vice captain of the 8th team of the 1st Regiment. That construction life left a deep impression on Li Tai. At the same time, during that time, Gu Xiaomao took good care of Li Tai. Therefore, Li Tai treated Gu Xiaomao as a friend. Hee. This. Gu Xiaomao looked troubled. He really didn't dare to call Li Tai's name directly. Forget it. I won't make things difficult for you. Xiaomao, I'm inviting my friends over for drinks today. Make some good food, and think of a way to get some girls. Li Tai saw this, and helplessly patted Gu Xiaomao's shoulder. At the same time, he felt a little disappointed. Actually, he wanted to casually make friends like ordinary people. Hey, everyone, please wait. The drinks and dishes will be here soon. Gu Xiaomao breathed a sigh of relief and immediately beamed with joy. Hey, we haven't eaten together in a long time. Xiaomao, why don't you come over for a drink later? Li Tai grabbed Gu Xiaomao's shoulder and said. Gu Xiaomao couldn't bear to refuse. He nodded and said, Okay, then when I'm done, I'll toast to everyone. That's more like it. Li Tai chuckled and then sat down with a few second-generation airs. Hey, a bunch of kids actually came over to drink instead of going home during the holidays? Just then, a burst of light laughter came from the neighboring table. Li Tai was furious when he heard that and was about to scold the person who spoke. However, when he stood up and saw the people at the neighboring table, he was instantly stunned. Mr. Zhang. Mr. Zhang-san, Mr. Wang, you guys are here too. Li Tai was stunned. The rest of the people then realized that the bearded man and Wang Ji were sitting at the neighboring table. They almost forgot that these two old drunkards were regulars at a small shop. If one were to say who loved drinking the most in the academy, it would be none other than these two. In the past, Wang Ji felt a little lonely in the academy by himself. However, after the bearded man was subdued by Li Zishuan and joined the academy, the two drunkards were immediately attracted to each other, as if there was a magnet attached to their bodies. The powerless Wang Ji actually became good friends with the bearded man, the top expert in the world, just like that. The miraculous changes in the world were truly unpredictable. Greetings, Mr. Zhang-san, Mr. Wang. Cheng Chimo, Sun Zifan, and Li Ko hurriedly went over and bowed to the bearded man and Wang Ji. As students, they went to the tavern to drink and ended up bumping into their teachers. Whoever met them would be King embarrassed. Chapter 990. You guys continue drinking. Just treat us, two old men, as if we don't exist. And have a small shop. Wang Ji looked at the embarrassed faces of Li Tai and the rest. He laughed, put down his glass, and said, But young people shouldn't drink too much. Just a little taste is enough. After all, strong alcohol is harmful to the body. The old man acted like a good teacher educating the younger generation. He completely forgot that he was an old drunkard. How could he have a right to advise others to drink less? Sir, you're right. We'll remember that. Li Tai cupped his hands and said politely, Go ahead. Wang Ji waved his hand and continued drinking. Li Tai sat down and looked at Li Ku, Zhang Sunchong, and Cheng Chimo. Although Wang Ji said that they didn't need to care about him and the bearded man, it was still awkward for two tables to eat at the same place. Little Ku, how did you do in the monthly exam this time? In order to break the awkward atmosphere as soon as possible, Li Tai had no choice but to find something to talk about. Li Ku looked at his brother and replied, It should be okay. Most of the questions this time were things that the teachers had talked about before. It didn't feel as difficult as the entrance exam 2 months ago. Sun Zifan interrupted. Hey, King of Han, you're right. The monthly exam questions this time were set by the teachers of the academy. The previous entrance exam questions were mostly set by the Yamacho. It's definitely more difficult. After all, not many people can understand the thinking of the Yamacho. Wang Ji, who was drinking at the next table, twitched his eyelids. The old drunkard seemed to have thought of something, and his face changed slightly. Sun Zifan, you're talking nonsense again. Why do I feel that the two exams are equally difficult? Cheng Chimo rolled his eyes and slammed the table. Everyone burst out laughing. Chonyo, if there's an exam that you think is easy, then I think the person who set the exam should be kicked out of the academy by the Yamacho. Li Tai said with a strange smile. F***CK. Ching K, you're cursing people in a roundabout way again. Next time on the court, I'll definitely torture you. Chung Chumo immediately glared back at him. The dishes are here. The dishes are here. At this moment, Gu Xiaomao walked over with 2 plates of food and shouted, Yo, this is stir-frying. One of the 2 dishes was stir-fried pickled cabbage. There was pickled cabbage in the Tang Dynasty. Due to the high price of salt and the lack of vegetables in winter, pickled cabbage was considered a relatively luxurious dish in winter, and the other dish was fried chicken with scallions. Seeing these 2 dishes, Li Tai raised his eyebrows and said with some surprise, Hey, my sister made this by imitating the dishes in the Academy's cafeteria and using lard. Gu Xiaomao put down the plate, scratched his head, and said embarrassedly, The Drunken Immortal restaurant had been popular in Chang, and for almost a year, and there were many restaurants that imitated its dishes. Although the taste was not as authentic as the Drunken Immortal restaurant, the stir-frying was already accepted by many people. Yin Huang College's cafeteria also had many stir-frying dishes, and in order to reduce costs, they used lard. Then your sister is also quite good. Xiaomao, bring some wine. Li Tai chuckled. After a while, the dishes were all served, and the group that followed Li Tai could no longer hold back. TSK. I didn't expect that the taste of the dishes in our Academy's cafeteria would be comparable to some of the restaurants in Chang'an. Amazing. Chung Chumo sniffed and took a deep breath. He looked as if he was drooling as he praised. True gold is not afraid of red fire, and good wine is not afraid of deep alleys. Ugly cow. The surface does not mean the interior is exquisite. A small place can also produce good food. At this moment, Wang Ji and the bearded guest at the next table had finished eating. The 2 drunkards stood up drunkenly. Wang Ji walked over and patted Chung Chumo on the shoulder. You guys go ahead and eat. This old man and Mr. Zhang San will leave first. Xiaomao. Bill. Wang Ji said to Gu Xiaomao while swaying. Hey, Brother Wang, this meal is on me. How can I let you pay for it? The bearded guest interrupted with a red face. Oh, did Brother Zhang say that before? Why didn't I know? Wang Ji was probably a little drunk. The old man knocked his head and said, Okay, Brother Zhang, you go and pay the bill. Xiaomao, how much is in total? Mr. Wang, Mr. Zhang San, it's 2 strings of coins and 300 copper coins. Why don't you come back another day? Gu Xiaomao calculated for a moment, looked at the 2 drunkards, and said worriedly, Actually, it was not that the food here was expensive. It was mainly because Wang Ji and the bearded guest came here to drink good wine. In the end, it was hard not to be expensive, but the 2 of them were drunk now, and it was impossible for them to have so much money on them. That was why he suggested this. Burp. Let me see. The bearded guest touched the money bag on him and found that there were only a few 100 copper coins. He could only say, Come. I'll write you an IOU. Come and get the money from me tomorrow. Gu Xiaomao hurriedly waved his hand and said, No need. Do you think I don't trust Mr. Zhang San's promise? The bearded man patted Gu Xiaomao's shoulder with his large hand. I told you to get the pen and paper, so hurry up and get it. I usually forget what happened the day before the next day after drinking. If I don't write an IOU, it'll be a miracle if you can get the money from me. Li Tai's eyes were wide open. He did not expect the bearded guest to have such a clear mind when he was drunk. Cough. No need to be so troublesome. Xiaomao, put the bill for these 2 gentlemen on my head. I'll settle it for you later. Li Tai coughed dryly and said. The bearded guest laughed loudly and said, It's not the student's turn to treat me to a drink. Xiaomao, quickly get the pen and paper. Seeing the bearded guest insist, Gu Xiaomao could only do as he was told. After a moment, the bearded guest finished writing the IOU and left with Wang Ji. Phew, they finally left. After Wang Ji and the bearded guest left, Sun Zifen heaved a sigh of relief. Chung Chumo laughed loudly and said, Come. Today, we won't go home until we're drunk. Zhang Sun Chong also said excitedly, We won't go home until we're drunk. That Chinke. Do you want to be like Mr. Zhang-san and write the IOU first? Otherwise, when you're drunk later, you'll forget everything the next day. At this moment, Yuchi Baolin said something that was inappropriate, causing everyone present to be stunned. Scram! Could it be that I can still renege on Xiao Mao's debt? Li Tai was enraged and said angrily. Then, he turned his head and said to Gu Xiao Mao, don't just stand there. Come over and have a few drinks with us too. All right then, my alcohol tolerance isn't too good. Everyone, please don't take offense. Chapter 991. Oh, my head hurts. What time is it now? The next day, the sun shone through the window and into the dormitory. Li Tai's bed was at the door, so the sun shone on his face. He didn't know when he finally woke up, but he suddenly felt a headache. After waking up from a hangover, people usually felt uncomfortable. Last night, they drank until 6:30 p.m. Cheng Chimo, Yuchi Baolin, Li Ku, Sun Chong, Qin Huayu, and Li Huayan were good drinkers. After eating and drinking, they could even ride back to Chang'an. He and Sun Zifen were not good drinkers, so they directly passed out. Naturally, they slept in the dormitory that night. Li Tai rubbed his eyes and endured the pain in his head. He stood up from the bed and looked at Sun Zifen, who was still sleeping like a dead pig. He shook his head and went to the bathroom to wash up. After a while, Li Tai finished washing up. The pain in his head was slightly relieved. He took a deep breath and walked out. Seeing that Sun Zifen was still sleeping, he curled his lips and said to himself, "What a dead pig. Goo-goo-goo." At this moment, Li Tai's stomach made a goo-goo-goo sound. Damn, looks like I slept for a long time. I'm so hungry. I can't wait for Zifen. I have to go out and find something to eat. Li Tai rubbed his stomach and quietly walked out of the door. Damn, it's almost noon, right? After leaving the dormitory, Li Tai saw that the sun was already above his head. He couldn't help but admire himself for sleeping for so long. Where should I eat? The cafeteria is too greasy. Thinking about where to eat, Li Tai suddenly became worried. Yinhuang College's cafeteria in this season only had pickles and meat dishes. He felt a little tired of eating them. Although the prince's mansion had fresh vegetables, distant water could not quench his thirst. Hey, I got it. Husband, you're back. The food is ready. Please wash your hands and come eat. In the courtyard of Yinshan, Li Zixuan had been marking test papers in the academy for the whole morning. When he returned home near noon, Han Yushi came up to him and considerately took off the cloak for Li Zixuan. She said with a smile, what delicious food did my wife make today? Li Zixuan sniffled and asked, Nothing much, just a plate of bean sprouts and a plate of roasted chicken. There's only the two of us here. If you cook too much, I'm afraid we won't be able to finish it. Although she had married into the Li family, Han Yushi's thrifty habit had not changed. Hey, that was enough. That's enough. Li Zixuan was not a wasteful person. Not only did he not dislike his wife's character, he even faintly admired it. In his previous life, he had seen a piece of news saying that the couple went to a restaurant for dinner. When they were about to leave, the woman saw that there were still a lot of dishes left, so she asked the waiter to pack them up. In the end, when they returned home, the man thought that the woman had embarrassed him and beat her up. When Li Zixuan saw this piece of news, he was speechless. He could only sigh. Why would a good girl always meet a scumbag man? Knock, knock, knock. Yamacho. At this warm moment, there was a knock on the door. Chinke, why is this guy here at this time? When Li Zixuan heard the voice, he knew that the person outside was Li Tai. He had some doubts in his heart. Husband, go and take a look. Han Yushi looked out of the window and said with a smile, Okay. Li Zixuan responded and went to the front yard. When he opened the door, he saw Li Tai outside the yard and said, Chinke, are you looking for me? Li Tai rubbed his hands and looked as if he was afraid of the cold. He said, Yes, there is something. Yamacho, why don't we go in and talk? After saying that, the little fatty actually wanted to go into the house. Li Zixuan was speechless. Was this his house or Li Tai's house? The little fatty wanted to declare war and seize control of the house. Grumble, grumble, grumble. Li Tai hadn't even taken 2 steps when his stomach failed to live up to his expectations and made 2 rumbling sounds. Li Zexuan's hearing was extremely sharp, and he immediately understood what was going on. F***CK. I say, you brat, are you here to freeload? Li Tai's face was immediately filled with embarrassment. He quickened his pace and walked inside while flatly denying, of course not. I'm here to ask Yamacho about the results of the monthly test. After saying that, he had already walked to the door of the house. Aya, Master's wife is really good at cooking. This dish smells so good. How delicious would it be when it is eaten? Even the imperial chefs in the palace are not as good as Master's wife's cooking skills. As soon as the little fatty entered the house, he immediately smelled the fragrance of fried bean sprouts and braised chicken floating in the air. This fellow did not care what dish was on the plate and praised it fiercely. If he lived in modern times, this fellow would definitely be a bootlicker. Han Yushi was elated by the praise and was a little overwhelmed. She hurriedly said, Chinke, you must be joking. You haven't eaten yet, right? I'll go to the kitchen and get you a bowl and chopsticks. Li Tai had been to the Li family more than once. At first, Han Yushi called him Your Highness. Later, under the insistence of Li Tai and Li Zexuan, she had long since changed her way of addressing him as Chinke. Li Tai's eyes lit up. He came all the way here just to hear this sentence. Hearing this, he immediately beamed with joy and said, Thank you, Master's wife. He previously thought that Li Zexuan had asked him for vegetables before and guessed that there should be vegetables to eat here. Thus, he gave up on eating in the cafeteria and directly ran here. Li Zexuan, who had just entered the house, could not help but shake his head. He thought to himself that this little fatty was becoming less and less arrogant as a dragon's descendant. He could actually do such a thing as freeloading. Han Yushi went to get a bowl and chopsticks for Li Tai, but Li Tai had already moved a chair and ran to the table to sit down. At this time, he saw that there were only 2 dishes on the table and could not help but be a little disappointed. However, when he saw the sparkling and white bean sprouts, he could not help but say in surprise, What dish is this? Why have I never seen it before? Li Zexuan came over and sat down. He picked up a bean sprout with his chopsticks and ate a mouthful of rice as he said unhappily, This is bean sprout. It's taken from the sprouts of soybean seedlings and stir-fried. Li Tai's eyes lit up and said, So it's vegetables. That's great. I want to try it. At this time, Han Yushi brought a bowl and chopsticks. Naturally, the bowl was filled with rice. Li Tai did not say anything and directly picked up the bean sprout. When it was close to his nose and mouth, a burst of fragrance entered his nostrils. He could not help but salivate. He quickly put the bean sprout into his mouth and chewed lightly. It was crispy and delicious. There was a hint of sourness and saltiness in the fresh fragrance. It whetted his appetite. Oh, delicious, delicious. This bean sprout is really delicious. Yamacho, where did this bean sprout come from? Can you sell it to me for 50 caddies first? After Li Tai took a bite of the bean sprout, he felt as if he had eaten a peerless delicacy. His eyes widened as he looked at Li Zexuan excitedly and asked, You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.